This story begins at the Hunter Association. An official calls trainee Kim Hanul. He tells Kim Hanul that he worked hard completing all the training in Hunter's Den. Kim Hanul stands straight in a suit and salutes. The official hands him a document and informs him that this is his E-rank hunter license. Kim Hanul thinks that he is finally becoming an official hunter. He reflects that he truly gritted his teeth and worked hard for this. He explains that because he awakened as the weakest, he had to study twice as much as everyone else to overcome his flaws. Thanks to that effort, when it comes to knowledge about dungeons and monsters, he fell behind no one. He believes that there is nothing he cannot do if he puts in the effort and declares that he is finally becoming a real hunter. The official interrupts, telling Kim Hanul that he is misunderstanding something. Kim Hanul reacts in confusion. The official explains that an E-rank hunter may have a license, but they cannot work as a full-fledged hunter. Kim Hanul looks shocked. The official continues that no matter how much strategy and tactics he studies, with E-rank stats he will not be able to take down any monster. Later, Kim Hanul curses in frustration. He states that on that day 7 years ago, he gave up on being a hunter. The game message thanks the player for playing fight monsters with monsters until now. Kim Hanul explains that now he is once again on the verge of losing his job. He says this is driving him crazy, and wonders how he is supposed to make a living if this goes under too. He reminds himself that he once said he would make history in the world of defense games, yet it is ending like this. The game announces that as of 11 p.m. tonight, the service for Fight Manhwa will end. Kim Hanul explains that after giving up the hunter job, the new work he found was this game, Fight Monsters with Monsters. The game is described as being packed with countless monsters brought to life in-game. The player hires monsters and uses them to block other monsters in this defense game. It looks like a simple defense game at first glance, but there are monster affinities, combinations, placement, and attack timing to consider. Upgrading the monsters you hire is essential. He states that the problem is that the odds are insanely bad. An even bigger problem is that no matter how well a monster is raised, if it dies even once, it gets reset in this roguelike style defense game. He concludes that is why everyone kept calling it a trash game. He adds that the balance is garbage too, and depending on the situation, a 3-star ogre often gets beaten by a 1-star goblin. He comments that the developer must be some kind of pervert while stretching his arms. He explains that with all these variables, it's a trash game infamous for its insane difficulty, but he makes his living streaming this game, and he is a true veteran of it. He lets out a hollow laugh and says that even if he could not be a hunter, he could at least make a living thanks to this game. He wonders what he is supposed to do now. Notification sound rings repeatedly. His live stream screen shows that 6 viewers are watching. The live chat comments that today is the last day of the game, and that he must feel empty. Others call it a trash game and ask why he is still playing it, and one asks if this is his last stream. He greets them casually. A viewer asks what he is going to do now. Another comments that he has a hunter license, so it is not like he will starve. Someone asks if he is going back to working as a hunter. Kim Hanul hesitates and admits that he is technically a hunter, but trails off. Another viewer jokes that he is flexing again. More comments say that he did well fighting with the trash game and ask if he was not making enough money as a trash game streamer. Another says they could tell he was struggling while promoting this trash game. Kim Hanul says he is thinking about the hunter thing but stops. He reveals that he can never tell them he is a washed-up E-rank hunter who cannot even enter a dungeon. He brushes it off and says that since it is the last day of Fight Manhwa, he will show them everything today. Kim Hanul suggests giving that thing a shot. He explains that thing means the main event of the game. The goal is to protect the castle from all kinds of monsters pouring out of the gate. He says he understands and decides to go straight into the challenge. As he places his hands on the keyboard and mouse, he thinks that the wave he is going to challenge today is the 700th wave, known as the unexplored territory. He states that this will probably be his last wave. He reminds the viewers that it cost a ton of money to raise everything to this point. A viewer responds that he only managed it because of their donation money. Another encourages him to go big for the final stream. Kim Hanul thinks that not once has anyone ever attempted the 700th wave. If he succeeds now, it will become a new record and an achievement. Then he wonders what meaning that even has at this point. The game screen shows the start button in front of a castle. He admits he still cannot help but feel nervous, and lets out a breath. He moves the mouse and begins. The system announces that the 700th wave has started. A swirling blue portal opens, spinning violently. Monsters rush out from it, including wolves and flying creatures. Kim Hanul is shocked that they are sending this many from the very start. He steadies himself and says they will begin with some zoning. Inside the game, Kim Hanul's character, a goblin archer, draws his bow and releases a flaming arrow. The arrow flies forward and strikes a charging wolf, bursting on impact as more monsters continue pouring in. The goblin archer looks startled as something strikes him. The game reports that the level 100 goblin archer has been destroyed. He clicks his tongue and mutters that the goblin archer was an expensive one. More wolves surge forward in a pack. He curses that if they all rush in at once, he will be in trouble. He quickly decides that for now he will deploy the level 130 succubus queen. He says he will clean up the entrance with this one. The succubus queen appears and unleashes her power, but a massive Cerberus suddenly charges in. Kim Hanul shouts in disbelief and questions when Cerberus got all the way over there. He says he will pull back for now and regroup. A heavy impact follows. The game reports that the level 130 Succubus Queen has been destroyed. It also reports that the level 250 One-Eyed Bullseye has been destroyed. He swears that even though it is the 700th wave, this is far too strong. The game reports that the level 150 Ogre Ritualist has been destroyed. Another alert begins to state that the level 130 Cerberus has done something. He stares at the screen and says he cannot believe the units he poured so much effort into are disappearing this easily. A huge explosion fills the screen. He concludes that at this rate, the wave is a bust. He admits that he has no units or buildings left to block the wave, and that all that remains now is just the castle. His fingers keep clicking the mouse. The castle stands alone as monsters charge toward it. He wonders if this is really how it ends. A bright light suddenly bursts from the castle entrance, stopping the monsters in their tracks. A man sits upon a throne inside, glowing with golden light. The game displays that Kim Hanul is the first to challenge the 700th wave. He reacts in confusion. The game then displays a single word, therefore. The man opens his eyes, and they glow red. The game announces that the Lord will awaken. An attendant beside the throne draws a sword. The Lord steps forward, wrapped in blazing light. Kim Hanul stares at the screen in shock, and questions whether the Lord has awakened, adding that the Lord is not even a movable character. The monsters rush up the stairs toward the light. Kim Hanul reflects that he has gotten a game over hundreds of times up to now. He reflects that nothing like this has ever happened before. Kim Hanul wonders what is going on right now. The Lord swings his sword once. A bright slash cuts through the front line, and blood bursts into the air as multiple monsters are cleaved apart. Kim Hanul stares his screen in disbelief, and questions whether it just took all of that out in one hit. He suddenly tells it to wait a second. The Lord stands alone against an army filling the hall. Kim Hanul warns that charging in like that is dangerous. The Lord kicks off the ground and launches forward, wrapped in a blazing aura. A huge arc of golden energy tears through the crowd. Explosions erupt as monsters are thrown apart and burned. The remaining creatures recoil in shock. The Lord moves through the air in a blur of light and swings his sword again. A blast of force crashes into the monsters. A shark-like creature is split apart as blood sprays across the hall. The game reports that Merman Warrior has been destroyed, and that Lizardman Hero has been destroyed. Another slash follows immediately. The game again reports that Viper has been destroyed, that Saiga Tribe Warrior has been destroyed, and that Salamander has been destroyed. The Lord continues cutting through the crowd without stopping. The game reports that Merman Hero has been destroyed, that Drake Adolescent has been destroyed, that Cyclops Warrior has been destroyed, and that Minotaur has been destroyed. A massive arc of slash sweeps across the hall, tearing monsters apart and smashing them into the walls. Kim Hanul stares at the screen and admits he cannot believe what he just saw. The Lord lands lightly and turns. He steps forward and presses his hand toward a glowing golden portal that forms in front of him. He grips his weapon as energy gathers around him. He looks ahead at the remaining monsters. A pillar of light descends around him, and flames of gold and blue rise upward. The hall trembles as the energy erupts outward. The game reports that Red Drake has been destroyed. The game continues listing destroyed enemies, including Sea Dragon Tribe warriors and a golem. Kim Hanul stares at the screen and exclaims that the Lord took them all down alone. The Lord stands in the glowing aftermath, his long hair flowing as the light fades. A blue window appears on the screen. Congratulations. The battlefield is silent, covered in the bodies of fallen monsters. Another message appears. You have cleared the 700th wave. Kim Hanul sits frozen in front of his monitor, eyes wide. He leans closer and asks if anyone saw the Lord. He says he always thought the Lord was just decoration in the audience chamber because it was always sleeping, but now it looks completely overpowered. He calls out again, asking if anyone is there. He turns back to his monitors and wonders if the stream crashed. He moves his mouse and asks why it is not responding. A chat message appears from viewer 1 thanking him and calling the game trash. Kim Hanul realizes the stream did not crash. He mutters that maybe the viewer 1 was not using a macro after all. He stares at the screen and says it is the first time he has seen viewer 1 speak in 5 years. Another message appears from viewer 1, saying that thanks to him, their liege has awakened from a long slumber. Kim Hanul reacts in confusion. Viewer 1 sends another message saying they have been given a chance to start anew together with him, and that they hope he will continue to lead them well. Kim Hanul awkwardly responds and thinks that the person is just talking nonsense. On the game screen, both characters bow. The live chat shows that viewer 1 has left the chat. Other viewers react in confusion, asking what just happened. Kim Hanul wonders if no one else saw it except that one viewer. Kim Hanul lowers his gaze and mutters that even his luck is terrible. He sighs and says that, anyway, this will be his last stream. His eyes suddenly shift. He pauses. A strange blue light flickers across his vision. A surge of energy bursts out from the monitor. A glowing vortex forms in front of him, spinning violently. He shouts as the force pushes against him. The room trembles. His chair scrapes back, and his microphone stand tips over. He stumbles to his feet, staring at the phenomenon unfolding in front of him. He looks up in disbelief. What is happening all of a sudden? A radiant blue window appears within the vortex. He stares at it. A new skill? His breathing turns shallow, which means reawakening? In that instant, one thing becomes clear. He recalls hearing an E rank cannot function as a full-fledged hunter. An E rank in a dungeon is strongly discouraged. There are rare cases where someone awakens an extra skill later in life, In those cases, their rank can rise. That phenomenon is called reawakening. Kim Hanul swallows. He admits he does not fully understand what is happening right now. But even for someone who has been looked down on his whole life, something has finally begun to change. A new chance has come. Kim Hanul leans forward, bracing himself against the desk. He lifts his head and addresses everyone, saying that today's stream will be his last. He declares that he will return as a hunter. Morning light shines over his quiet residential building. Kim Hanul sits on his bed, staring ahead. He mutters that he did reawaken, but a blue status window appears in front of him. Name, Kim Hanul. Age, 28. Sex, male. Strength, 10. Stamina, 13. Agility, 6. Willpower, 5. Skill, LV, 1. Regeneration. Contracted thrones, none. None of his stats have changed. He says he expected something more from a reawakening, but this is just... A notification sound interrupts him. Another blue window appears. Would you like to check information on your new skill? Asking for confirmation. Kim Hanul stares at it. Information on the new skill? He quickly nods to himself. He says it does not matter if his stats did not increase. As long as he gets at least a high-rank skill, that is enough. He reaches out and presses accept. A new window opens, saying deal with the Lord. Kim Hanul blinks. He reads the names out loud, confused. He says he has never seen skills like these before. He decides he will understand once he tries using them. Kim Hanul says he will start with Deal with the Lord, since it is an active skill. The blue window appears. Activating Deal with the Lord. A red notice flashes. Not enough gold. The skill cannot be activated due to insufficient gold. Kim Hanul stares blankly at the screen. Then he groans and falls back onto his bed. He says he finally gets a skill and cannot even use it. He adds that it is not like he can ask anyone about this. He goes quiet. He looks toward his desk and monitors. He thinks maybe if it is that person they might know something. A memory crosses his mind. Viewer 1 thanks him and says good morning, calling what is this trash game. He remembers the strange sense of unease he felt back then. He starts the live screen again. He asks for someone to log in. Viewer 1 has joined. Viewer 1 says good morning. Kim Hanul's eyes widen. Kim Hanul says he is here. He notes that Viewer 1 came in like he had been waiting. Kim Hanul smiles slightly and welcomes Viewer 1. He locks the stream so only one viewer remains. He says he temporarily locked the stream because there is something he wants to ask. Viewer Roan tells him to speak freely. Kim Hanul thinks that right after he talked with this guy, the skill appeared. Kim Hanul recalls Viewer Roan's earlier comment. Kim Hanul thinks this guy might be connected to his reawakening. He admits it might sound strange, but he says he suddenly reawakened yesterday. He looks straight ahead. He asks Viewer 1 if he knows anything about reawakenings. Viewer 1 says he does know about reawakenings. Kim Hanul's eye sharpens. He thinks he knew it. He really does know something. He thinks that awakening is supposed to be something outside human control. If that is true, then, could it be related to a throne? Kim Hanul wonders if this person helped him reawaken. He lowers his gaze. He asks himself why. Kim Hanul says he is not sure whether he should feel relieved or just confused that Viewer 1 knows about it. He asks why this happened to him. Sitting at his desk, he says he cannot see any reason someone would show him that kind of favor. Viewer 1 says that's because their liege has chosen him. He thanks Kim Hanul, saying that because of him, their liege was able to awaken. Kim Hanul repeats that it awakened because of him. He pauses. Then he remembers something from before. The message saying that thanks to him, their liege has awakened from a long slumber. Kim Hanul stares ahead. He wonders if all of this is connected to the game. Blue energy rises around him as he reacts. Viewer 1 wearing a hooded cloth and holding a lantern appears in a dark space. He tells Kim Hanul he may be confused for now, but he will gradually come to understand. For now, he should consider the skill given to him as a token of their liege's gratitude. Kim Hanul says he understands for now. Then he asks how he is actually supposed to use the skills. He says it feels like there are conditions. Viewer explains that audience with the Lord is a skill that still needs some time. Kim Hanul asks why he cannot use the other skill. He says it kept telling him he did not have enough gold. Viewer looks confused. Then he opens a glowing book. He says it seems there was some kind of mix-up. Then he raises a finger, saying Kim Hanul will be receiving 50 gold shortly. He adds that once Kim Hanul has the gold, he will be able to use the skill. Then tells him he will understand the details once he uses it himself. He concludes that Kim Hanul will be in their care from now on. The message reports, Viewer 1 has left the chat. Kim Hanul sits still. He wonders if this was all a dream. He thinks that guy really was involved in his reawakening. He questions whether the liege mentioned is some kind of throne. He admits he has no idea what is going on anymore. Suddenly, a notification appears. 50 gold has been deposited. Another message appears. Deal with the Lord skill has been activated as his gold is now sufficient. He stares in shock. The blue screen appears in front of him. It shows a list of monsters available for deals with the Lord. Current gold, 50. The list includes Goblin Slave, 50 gold. Goblin Fighter, 70 gold. Goblin Archer, 70 gold. Goblin Elder, 100 gold. Ghoul, 110 gold. Giant Slime, 110 gold. Gold Lizard, 130 gold. The screen highlights Goblin Slave, 50 gold. Kim Hanul stares at the blue window. He mutters that this skill window looks familiar. He realizes it is almost exactly the same as the higher window from Fight Mon Mon. He thinks about goblins, wolves, and orcs. He says it is slightly different, but nearly identical to what he saw in the game. He remembers that in the game, the monsters he hired could be summoned to his castle and used as troops. Kim Hanul wonders if that means he can summon them in real life too, just like in the game. If that is true, then instead of relying only on his own combat power, he could have a summoned fighter battle for him. With the 50 gold he has now, there is only one option. Goblin Slave, 50 gold. The image of a thin goblin appears in the window. His eyes widen. Then another window appears. Dreamlord, requires 9,999,999,999 gold. Affection 100. Kim Hanul is shocked. He recognizes that name. He says that if it is the Lord, that is the character who wiped out all the monsters in the audience chamber. He admits he would love to hire him if he could, but just looking at the cost and affection requirement makes him give up immediately. Still, if this really works like Fight Monmon and he can summon any monster he hires, then he needs more gold. He sits back and thinks. In the game there were two ways to obtain gold. You either cleared dungeons, or hunted monsters and sold the loot for gold. Kim Hanul thinks that if the same rules apply to reality, then to earn gold, he would have to hunt real monsters. He admits that with his current stats, he can barely defeat even the weakest monsters. He goes quiet. In that case, the Goblin Slave is his only hope. He hesitates for a moment and presses the hire button. A message appears. Goblin Slave has been hired. Hired monsters can be re-summoned without additional gold cost. Energy begins to swirl. Another message appears. Goblin Slave is being summoned. Blue lightning tears through the room. Kim Hanul shields himself as the summoning circle glows brighter. He shouts that it is actually summoning a monster for real, but then he frowns. He asks why a Goblin Slave is giving off such a powerful aura. His eyes widen in shock. He wonders what this guy really is. The scene shifts to a tall building under a bright sky. Inside, a staff member types on a keyboard and calls Hunter Kim Hanul. She sees his activity, name, stats, and his complete profile. The staff member says she will confirm once more. He is an E-rank hunter and works solo. Kim Hanul replies that yes, he wants to register as a solo player. The staff member asks if this is his first request. He answers yes. The staff member explains that there are about 4 available right now and asks if he would like to check the list. Kim Hanul sits with his arms crossed and hums softly, thinking that he needs something that will not draw much attention. After looking through the options, he considers one and wonders if it is the right choice. He states that he will take that request. The staff member asks if he means that one, the kind where backup cannot arrive immediately if something happens, and checks if he is sure about it. Kim Hanul gives a small smile and confirms that he is. The staff member remarks that it is unusual for an E-rank hunter to go on a solo hunt, then agrees to proceed. The staff member informs him that he is now registered for the request and that she will send him the necessary details. She then instructs him to scan his fingerprint on the device in front of him for identification. He agrees and presses his finger onto the scanner. She explains that once verification is complete, he can head out right away and asks if he has any other questions. He answers that there is nothing else. When the registration is completed, the staff member tells him that she will see him after he finishes the request. Kim Hanul realizes that this is finally his first hunter job. He feels nervous but also excited, then decides that it is time to test out his new skill. The system displays the request details. Eliminate the goblins that have settled in the mountain behind the village. Rank, E requester, village residence. Kim Hanul walks along the dirt road and thinks that he should be almost there by now. The village chief calls out to him and welcomes him as hunter. The village chief bows slightly and thanks him for coming all the way out to their shabby place. Kim Hanul responds that it is not a problem and that it is his job. He adds that the chief must have been very worried because of the goblins. The village chief explains that because of those creatures, they have not been able to go anywhere near the mountain for a whole week. Kim Hanul thinks that no one would come all the way to the countryside just to hunt goblins, since the payoff is not worth the time it takes. The village chief asks if he will really be alright on his own, and mentions that he heard goblins are tougher than they look. He admits that he is worried something might happen to their benefactor. Kim Hanul holds the village chief's hands and promises that nothing will happen to the village or to him. The village chief lowers his head and thanks him again, saying he is truly grateful. After calming the village chief, who keeps thanking him over and over, Kim Hanul heads deeper into the forest where the goblins were said to appear. He looks around and thinks that it seems to be about the right spot, though he does not feel anything unusual yet. Suddenly, he hears rough coughing sounds nearby. Water splashes into a wooden bowl, and a goblin gulps it down. Kim Hanul reacts in confusion and wonders what on earth he is looking at. A whole group of goblins are gathered together, drinking spring water like some middle-aged men. He pauses, then thinks that it is a little weird, but it actually works out well for him. He decides that this way he can safely summon that guy. He calls out for his inventory, and a blue window appears before him. Holding a glowing blue orb in his hand, he says it is time to test this guy out. He jumps forward and throws the Pokemon ball, shouting for the Goblin Slayer to go. The glowing Pokemon ball shoots across the forest path toward the group of goblins as they stand together near the rocks. But then the Pokemon ball stops in the middle. Kim Hanul lands and looks at his empty hand in confusion. The goblins stare at the glowing blue orb on the ground and mutter in confusion. they suddenly bare their teeth and turn aggressive. Kim Hanul stares in shock and wonders what is going on. He questions whether this is not how he is supposed to summon it, and asks how this system is supposed to work. The goblins spread out and begin surrounding him. He realizes this is bad, and that it is already too late to run. At that point, he thinks he has no choice but to handle this alone without a summon. The goblins charge toward him. He braces himself, and wonders if he can really pull it off. One goblin lunges forward with a shriek as the others rush in. Kim Hanul shouts as he swings his arm. He suddenly pauses in confusion. A bright light flashes in front of him. The system displays that Goblin Slave is being summoned. In the next instant, a dark figure bursts forward and slashes through a goblin, sending blood flying. Kim Hanul stares in shock. He recalls that when he first started playing Fight Manhwa, the very first monster he obtained was a goblin slave. He had been so happy just to have his first monster. He remembers pouring every rare item he had into it, and because of that, he cleared over 100 waves with that single monster. He states that this guy is known as Gano. The system displays Gano's inventory: Windhelm ranked A, Rook Crow Leather Armor ranked A, Rook Crow Cloak ranked A, Rook Crow Boots ranked A, and Club of Heracles ranked A. The system reports that a special perk has been applied, and informs that he can access the inventory of the first monster he ever hired. Gano moves through the air surrounded by swirling blue energy, and crashes down with force. Blue energy erupts around Gano as he stands over the bloodied ground while Kim Hanul watches from a distance. A goblin trembles and lets out a strange sound, then screams and starts to run. Gano descends from above, cloaked in blue flames, and charges forward. The system displays that Rook Crow's wing beat is being activated. Wings of light spread from Gano's boots. Lightning gathers as he shoots upward and then dives straight down. He crashes into the ground in a surge of blue lightning, sending debris flying and knocking a goblin away. Gano spins through the air in a surge of blue energy and slashes through a goblin, sending blood spraying as the body is torn apart. Kim Hanul stares at the scene and mutters that there is no way. Sweat runs down his face as he asks himself if Gano was always that strong. Gano walks forward across the dirt path, dragging his weapon as he calls out with rough cries. Kim Hanul stiffly tells him he did a good job out there. Gano suddenly appears close in front of him. Kim Hanul looks down at him and trails off, wondering if Gano wants him to praise him for doing well. Gano makes short chirping sounds while staring at him. Kim Hanul wonders what this is, and asks himself if all summoned monsters are like this. He feels uncomfortable and questions the look in Gano's eyes. The system displays that Gano affection is 20 out of 100. Kim Hanul looks at the screen in confusion and repeats the word affection. He questions what this is, and wonders why there is affection, asking if this is some kind of dating simulation. Gano hops lightly beside him. The system displays that when affection is completely filled, a new skill can be obtained. Kim Hanul stares at the message reflected in his eye and repeats that it is a new skill. He awkwardly tells Gano that he did well and calls him amazing, while forcing a laugh. He hugs Gano tightly and pats him. He thinks that if it gets him a skill he can praise him all day. The system reports that Gano's affection has increased by 10. Kim Hanul says anyway, even after killing these monsters, there is no loot or anything dropping. He adds that maybe this is not how gold is earned. Gano makes a small sound. Kim Hanul looks at him and asks what is wrong. Gano suddenly moves across the ground and kneels beside a goblin's corpse. He reaches inside and pulls out glowing blue stones. Kim Hanul watches and asks what he is doing. Gano lifts the shining stones in both hands and chirps. Kim Hanul realizes they came out of the goblin's corpse. He examines one and says it does not look like a normal rock, and asks what it is. Gano calls out to him again. Kim Hanul turns and asks if it is behind him. A swirling blue light forms in the forest. Kim Hanul looks at it and says, "This is a gate." He adds that for a gate, it is pretty small. Gano crushes the glowing stones in his hand. Blue energy bursts out and shoots toward the gate. The system reports that a total of 3 lowest grade mana stones have been sold, and that 30 gold has been deposited from the Dream Lord's castle. Kim Hanul reacts with a quiet sound of surprise, saying he sees, and now gets it. He explains that unlike in the game, in reality when a monster is killed, mana stones drop instead of regular loot, and those are sold to get gold. He nods and tells Gano he did nicely. He pats Gano on the head. Gano lets out a pleased chirp. The system reports that Gano's affection has increased by 5%. Kim Hanul says that they have gold now, so it is time to collect proof for the request. Gano chirps again, as they stand in the forest clearing filled with fallen goblins. A heavy sound echoes through the forest. He and Gano look up as the trees tremble. Kim Hanul asks what that was and wonders if another monster is nearby. The forest path ahead grows darker as something large moves between the trees. A violent crash splits the ground, sending debris flying. The trees are forced apart as something massive pushes through. Kim Hanul realizes this is not some goblin but something much bigger. He senses that something is coming. Kim Hanul looks up with tense eyes, sweat running down his face. He curses under his breath, realizing something is wrong. A massive ogre stands in the forest holding a huge wooden club. Kim Hanul is shocked that an ogre is appearing here, thinking that it is something that should only be seen in at least a B rank request. He questions why it is appearing in an E rank request. He notices a wound on the ogre. The cuts are clean, like they were made by a blade. and the marks look as if someone aimed for the vital spots. He wonders if it already fought something before this. Even so, he reminds himself that an ogre's combat power is at least B-rank hunter level or higher. The system informs that 3 minutes remain until Gano returns to the Lord's castle and activates Rookcrow's wingbeat, reporting that 3 minutes are remaining. Kim Hanul realizes that Gano does not have much summoning time left. Sweat drips down his face as he considers whether he should cut his losses and run now. Gano steps forward under the bright sky, carrying the large club. He then stands in front of the ogre, holding his large club facing it directly. He glances back slightly and gives a small nod. Kim Hanul understands that he is telling him to trust him. He steadies himself and accepts it, thinking that for now, all he can do is trust Gano. He quietly urges him to win this. The system activates Rookcrow's wingbeat. Blue energy bursts around Gano as he launches forward at high speed, tearing across the ground toward the ogre. The ogre roars and raises its club high above its head. Gano slides low across the ground, blue energy trailing behind him. He suddenly flips upward, his body turning as the energy surges around him. The ogre looks up, startled, as Gano rises into the air above it. Gano gathers the swirling blue force around himself and prepares to strike down from above. Gano descends from the sky wrapped in blazing blue energy, his body turning as he drives straight down. His eyes glow as he clenches his teeth and swings his weapon with full force. He crashes his weapon onto the ogre's head in an explosive impact. Blue light bursts outward as debris and fragments scatter in all directions. The ogre staggers, its massive arms raised as it bares its sharp teeth. Sweat runs down its face as it struggles against the force pressing down on it. Gano pushes through the resistance and forces the strike downward. A powerful boom echoes through the forest as another shockwave erupts, blue light expanding in a wide circle around them. Kim Hanul's eye widens in shock. He braces himself with his arms crossed in front of him as the shockwave rushes outward, kicking up dirt and stones across the ground. Above the ogre, Gano remains suspended in the air for a brief moment, blue flames trailing behind him as the impact settles. Kim Hanul runs toward the fallen ogre and shouts Gano's name. The ogre lies collapsed in a crater, its body crushed into the ground. Kim Hanul rushes up to Gano and grabs his hands, telling him that he did it, and that it was absolutely amazing. Gano responds with small excited sounds. The system informs that 5 seconds remain until Gano returns to the Lord's castle. Gano raises the glowing blue orb and calls out once more. The system reports that 2 seconds are remaining. Kim Hanul thanks Gano and tells him they should meet again next time. Gano answers with a final cry. The system announces that the goblin slave is returning to the Lord's castle. A beam of light descends, and Gano's body turns into blue particles and disappears, leaving the glowing orb behind. The system informs that 24 hours are required until the next deployment. Kim Hanul says that he will sell this as well. He holds 2 glowing blue mana stones in his hands, and notes that he actually managed to take down an ogre, calling it a huge unexpected gain. He then wonders about the gate. He notices something and reacts in confusion. A swirling blue gate forms nearby, spinning on its own. Kim Hanul remarks that a gate just popped up on its own. He throws the orb into the gate. The system reports that 1 mid-low grade mana stone has been sold, and that 100% gold has been deposited from the Dream Lord's castle. It also displays that his current gold is 130. The system announces that for the first time, a mana stone imbued with an ogre's soul has been sold, and that it is calculating an additional bonus reward. Kim Hanul questions what the additional reward is. The system informs that 1 premium draw ticket has been issued from the Lord's castle. Kim Hanul quietly notes that it is a draw ticket. The system explains that a premium draw ticket is an item from Fight Manhwa that lets the user obtain various rare items. It also states that the odds are so terrible that it is notorious among players. Electric energy crackles as a blue window appears, displaying that the premium draw ticket is a special ticket that lets the user obtain rare items. A golden chest materializes in swirling light and drops into Kim Hanul's hands. He looks down at it and notes that this is that infamous ticket. Holding the chest up, he wonders if, even if he pulls a rare item, whatever comes out would only be usable by monsters. The system informs that items obtained from draws can also be equipped by the user. Kim Hanul reacts in confusion and repeats that the user can equip them too. He pauses and thinks that if that is true, then all those overpowered items that turned even goblins into broken characters could be used by him as well. He stares at the floating window showing that 1 premium draw ticket is owned and begins to consider it seriously. Suddenly, someone calls out from nearby, telling someone to come over here. Kim Hanul realizes that it is a human voice and that someone is coming this way. He decides that he will have to use the ticket later. A man in armor runs through the forest with others behind him, shouting to the team leader that the tracks continue this way. Another orders him to stop reporting every little thing and focus on finding the ogre. The armored man states that the ogre's trail definitely leads this way. A woman with long hair behind him wonders why they suddenly stopped. She stares ahead in confusion and quietly reacts. Kim Hanul also looks forward in surprise. In front of them, the massive ogre's corpse lies collapsed in a large crater, blood staining the ground. Kim Hanul stands near the body. The group slows down as they take in the scene. The woman steps forward, and the others follow behind her. This woman is Yoon Sua, Team 2 leader of Pungbeg Guild, an A-rank hunter. Kim Hanul lowers his head slightly and realizes that these are the people who were originally hunting this ogre. He thinks that this just got annoying. The group asks him to wait for a moment. The armored man closes in, and the group surrounds Kim Hanul. Yoon Sua states that they are from Pungbeg Guild, and that this ogre is a special type monster they were hunting. She stares at him sharply and asks if he, by any chance, killed this ogre. Kim Hanul curses inwardly and wonders if they are here to pick a fight because he stole their prey. He hesitates and questions how he is supposed to get out of this situation. Yoon Sua looks at the ogre's corpse and wonders if he really took that thing down alone. She notes that even if it was injured, that ogre is a B rank or higher monster, and that even 3 B ranks here could not beat it. She concludes that he is at least A rank level. After a brief pause, she decides to leave it at that for now. She steps forward and greets him, saying it is nice to meet a hunter. She introduces herself as Yoon Sua from Pungbeg Guild, and says they should see what kind of person he is. Kim Hanul introduces himself while shaking her hand. Yoon Sua got a report that the Heavenly Sky Archangel throne shows great interest in the person before it. She is startled and wonders if a throne is interested in him. She studies him closely and notes that, for that, the atmosphere around him is awfully normal. She calls him Hunter Hanul and asks if he hunted this ogre. Kim Hanul answers that, for now, one could say that. Yoon Sua repeats his words quietly and watches him with narrowed eyes, wondering if he is hiding something. Yoon Sua tells Kim Hanul that the ogre is the one they let slip away. They had been worried it might cause damage in the area, so this outcome is a relief. Kim Hanul responds that he just got lucky. Yoon Sua looks at him sharply and reflects that this is not a monster someone can kill with luck alone. She believes he is definitely hiding something. In that case, she says they would like to relinquish their claim to the ogre he hunted. She explains that their guild will handle the corpse and the payment for him, since he finished the subjugation in their place. Kim Hanul repeats the word relinquish in confusion. He wonders if they are seriously handing it over like this, thinking he basically stole their guild hunt. Yoon Sua continues that in return, there is one thing she would like to ask. Kim Hanul realizes they are not simply giving it up for free and reacts with confusion when he sees her take out her phone. Yoon Sua steps forward and asks Hunter Kim Hanul if she could have his number. Kim Hanul stares at her, startled, and lets out a confused sound. Later, the village chief thanks the hunter Kim Hanul sincerely and says he really saved them. Kim Hanul tells him not to think anything of it. He tells the village chief not to think anything of it, and says it should be safe to go up the mountain again now. The village chief tells him he has really done so much for them, and wishes there was some proper way to repay him. Kim Hanul addresses him and asks if he happens to know where the famous place called Suryunbi is around here. The village chief repeats the name Suryunbi, and realizes he has heard about it already. He explains that if Kim Hanul follows the road straight, he will find it over there. It is known as a place that brings good luck, and if he ever feels he needs a bit of luck, it will surely help him. Later, Kim Hanul stands in front of a tall stone monument in the forest. He thinks he does not really believe in superstitions, but maybe it is worth a try. He says that maybe he will pull something better if he draws in a lucky spot. His phone vibrates. He notices it is a message from Yoon Sua. The message reads that this is Yoon Sua from Pungbeg Guild. As mentioned, their guild will handle processing the ogre's corpse, so he should contact them when he visits the guild later. Kim Hanul is surprised that she actually messaged him, and did not expect her to use her personal number instead of the guild's general line. He brushes it off, and decides to open the rest of the rewards. Holding the box, he thinks that he never expected to see something like this in real life. The odds are terrible, but high-grade items can come out. Kim Hanul hopes for at least something around A rank. The system asks if he would like to use a premium draw ticket to open the box. He tells it to open. The system informs him that one premium draw ticket will be consumed. A bright light bursts out from the box. The system explains that the items that come out of the box vary in grade. Among them, the highest grade is grade S, which shines with a golden light. A golden glow explodes outward. Kim Hanul stares at it and mutters about the glow and the gold. Then his expression changes as he notices a red color mixed within it. Later, he sits alone in his room and thinks that this is a problem he did not expect. He has figured out how to earn gold now, but when he opens his status window to hire monsters, he cannot select anything. He wonders what the issue is. The system displays a monster list available for trade with the Lord and shows that he owns 130 gold. The list includes Goblin Slave with hiring complete, Goblin Warrior for 70 gold, Goblin Archer for 70 gold, Goblin Elder for 100 gold, Ghoul for 110 gold, Giant Slime for 110 gold, Lizard for 130 gold, Giant Toad for 110 gold, Lycanthrope for 110 gold, Gargoyle for 390 gold, and Ogre Berserker for 420 gold. The system then displays monsters available for hire as Goblin Fighter and Ogre Berserker. Kim Hanul asks if those two are the only ones he can hire right now. He notes that the Goblin Fighter is fine since it only costs 70 gold, but he hesitates. Kim Hanul wonders why the 420 gold Ogre Berserker is also available to hire, when he definitely does not have enough gold yet. He pauses, then realizes something. He thinks that maybe he can only hire monsters he has defeated before. If that is the case, he concludes it makes sense. That would explain why only those two are selectable. He considers the idea of having to personally defeat monsters and admits it is definitely a tough requirement. His thoughts return to the items he obtained from the draw ticket. The system reports that the premium draw ticket use has been completed. He looks at the result and sees Beholder's glasses, marked as a unique grade slot. The description states that they are glasses invented by a beholder who developed both astigmatism and nearsightedness, making them the perfect gift for a beholder. All stats increase by 5, and the Sage's Eye skill can be used twice per day. He thinks that it is not impossible. He did not expect a unique item to drop. It is practically a top-tier item that no one has ever managed to draw. He considers that if it works like the settings he knows, then instead of several decent items such as Armor of Pseudo A rank, Ring of Tentium A rank, or Poisoned Holy Grail A rank, this single unique grade item is even more powerful. On top of that, he recalls that it can be equipped by him as well. He decides to try it and adjust the glasses onto his face. As soon as Kim Hanul puts on the glasses, a surge of blue light bursts around him. He grips the sides of the frame in shock. The system displays his status window. His name is Kim Hanul, age 28, male. His strength is 15 with an added 5, agility 11 with an added 5, stamina 18 with an added 5, and mental power 10 with an added 5. His skills are level 1 regeneration, level 1 deal with the monarch, and level 1 Sage's Eye. His contracted constellation is none. The system then displays Sage's Eye. It checks a target's stats and own skills. The usage limit is 2 times per day, and targets C rank and below are not counted. Kim Hanul reacts in shock and realizes his stats really went up by 5% each. He confirms that the unique item's effect actually applies and calls it insane. He wonders if he can use this skill too. Thinking about Sage's Eye, he understands that he can check a target's information in advance. He concludes that this is exactly the kind of skill he needs right now. Images of monsters appear, including Mutant Hydra A grade, Gargoyle C grade, and Werewolf D grade with their stats and skills shown. He thinks that if he can learn about different monsters ahead of time, hunting will be much easier. But one question remains. He takes off the glasses and wonders why he would be given all this power for free, and why it had to be him of all people. Suddenly, the system issues a warning. It reports that a wave will begin shortly and tells him to prepare for defense. Kim Hanul stares at the alert in confusion. Red warning messages continue flashing in front of Kim Hanul, repeatedly telling him to prepare for defense. He stares at the screen and mutters in confusion, asking what this is. A large blue screen appears before him. He realizes that this is the Fight Mon game screen. The system reports that the 701st monster wave will begin in 10 minutes, and instructs him to prepare for defense. He repeats the words prepare for defense to himself and wonders if a monster wave means a wave from Fight Mon. He questions whether he is supposed to stop that right now. He asks if there is any way to refuse and wonders what will happen if he fails to block the wave. The system responds that if he fails to defend against the invasion, the Dreamlord's castle will be overrun and all of his abilities will be lost. In addition, the current world will be destroyed. Kim Hanul stands frozen as the message remains on the screen, showing that the 701st monster wave will begin in 10 minutes. Kim Hanul stares ahead and repeats that he has to stop the monsters right now. A swirling blue portal forms on the screen. He observes that it looks just like a monster defense game, and questions why he is suddenly being told to play it. He thinks about the absurd penalty and says it does not make sense for the world to be destroyed just because he lost a game. The system announces that in 9 minutes and 23 seconds, a monster wave will begin and tells him to prepare for the invasion. He exhales and decides there is no point in thinking too deeply about it. He concludes that what matters most right now is stopping the monsters. Blue light surrounds him as he reaches toward the interface. While the MANHWA is a simple defense game where monsters attacking the castle must be stopped. However, due to the extreme difficulty, a thorough strategy is needed to stop the monsters. Placing monsters in the right positions and installing countless defensive structures in the castle are essential. Kim Hanul stands within the glowing interface as the game-like system spreads out before him. He concludes that even various items can be used, and that by utilizing numerous elements and devising appropriate strategies and tactics, that is the core of this game. Kim Hanul reaches out and touches the interface, wondering if the controls are touch-based. He then thinks about the troops he can currently use. The system reports that it is checking deployable monsters in the Lord's castle. It informs him that there are a total of 4 monsters delivered from the sale of magic stones. Including those, there are 5 monsters currently available for deployment. The deployable monsters are Goblin Slave, Goblin Spearman, and Ogre Berserker. Kim Hanul notices this and wonders if sending magic stones to the Lord's castle means he can use them during the wave without hiring them separately. He then asks if he cannot also use the Lord like before. The system states that the Dream Butler and the Lord are unavailable resources. Kim Hanul curses under his breath and thinks about buying additional troops with his owned gold. He reaches toward the screen. The system informs him that it is impossible to hire new monsters immediately after receiving a wave notification. Kim Hanul demands to know whether he is being told to clear this or not. The system displays monster information and announces that the 701st monster wave is Count Gular and his Dragon Fang unit. It shows Count Gular, along with 40 wyverns and 20 half-drakes, A total of 61 monsters appear. Count Gular is a 6-star monster. Star rank is like an indicator that shows a monster's combat power. Since this star rank represents the monster's combat power itself, if the difference is too great, it is common sense that a battle will not even happen. But there is one 6-star monster and 65-star monsters, and Kim Hanul is supposed to block them with 1-star goblins and 5-star ogres. In this state, it is hard enough to even take down one, let alone 61. Kim Hanul does not have enough gold or monsters to even set up a strategy right now. He wonders what he should do. The system informs that as the sole player he is granted a privilege. For this wave only he can choose one defensive structure and one item. The item will be distributed to all troops. However, wearable items are limited to one slot. Kim Hanul reacts in confusion at the mention of privilege. The system continues that he can choose one defensive structure and one item. Kim Hanul questions whether he is being told to clear the first wave with just this much of a privilege. He states there is no way to clear it with only 2 special benefits. Still, as a veteran of this dead game, he declares that he has his own way. Kim Hanul reaches out and moves his hand across the screen. He has played this game longer than anyone. Others might wonder how he will block the wave in this state, but he believes he can do it if he mobilizes all the knowledge he has. The timer shows 8:30, then 5:12. Even with just these troops and 2 special perks, he continues preparing. The time drops to 0:54. Cards for Goblin Spearman and Ogre Berserker appear. Kim Hanul grits his teeth as the timer reaches 0:15. A card labeled Goblin Slave appears, and he declares that he can block them all. The timer reaches 0000. Kim Hanul looks forward with a steady gaze. He states that he has done everything he can and urges them to come on and bring it. The system displays that the wave begins. A massive red dragon descends with its wings spread wide, smaller monsters following behind it. It lowers its head toward a glowing blue barrier below. Nearby, on top of a dragon, Count Gular stands, with his arms crossed, as the wind and embers swirl around him. Red lightning and blue energy clash in the air as the dragon's attack crashes down against the barrier. Count Gular stands with his arms crossed, watching without moving. The impact spreads across the glowing blue shield surrounding the castle. Kim Hanul observes the barrier and states that the strategy worked. The system displays infinite barrier. No matter the attack, durability only decreases by 1%. It defends against monster wave invasions. Current durability is 100 out of 100. The infinite barrier is an overpowered barrier, but there are conditions for its use. It can only be installed when the average troop rank is 2-star or lower. It is a beginner-exclusive item. It can only be used because his combat power is at a newbie level. Flames explode against the barrier as wyverns attack from above. The system reports that one wyvern deals damage to the infinite barrier. Multiple notifications appear, each stating that durability decreased by 1. Kim Hanul explains that any attack only reduces durability by 1, but the problem is the number of enemies. The barrier's durability is 100%. If 61 monsters attack, the durability drops below half in an instant. Kim Hanul smirks and states that there is a way to deal with this too. Mad click begins, meaning he clicks incredibly fast. He explains that the barrier recovers 1 durability per click. The durability rises to 55 out of 100. He states that for that attack, he just has to repair it with mad clicking. His hand feels like it is going to break from clicking, but he continues. Red lightning and flames crash against the barrier again. He states that with this, the defense is settled. He then considers what to use next to catch those guys. A beam of light shoots upward from the castle. A wyvern is struck, and the system reports that one wyvern took 1 damage. Kim Hanul explains that normally a goblin would not be able to deal damage to a wyvern, but with this, it is possible. The system displays Hachan's spoon, A grade, part, both hands. Monsters equipped with this item can deal ranged damage regardless of their rank. He explains that if it is Hakon's spoon, they can deal damage while ignoring rank differences. The system reports that one half-drake took 1 damage, and one wyvern took 1 damage. It then reports again that one half-drake took 1 damage. He notes that of course it only deals 1 damage at a time. A goblin throws a spoon. It strikes a red wyvern in the face. The wyvern pauses, confused. The goblin grins and waves. Kim Hanul explains that if they keep getting hit like this, those monsters will eventually die. By simple calculation, if he keeps attacking for about 60 hours, it should work. The goblin continues throwing spoons at the wyverns flying above the barrier. Kim Hanul states that now all that is left is to keep repairing the barrier and endure for 60 hours. He continues clicking rapidly. The barrier's durability rises to 60 out of 100. He says he will see whether he pulls them out faster or not. Monsters rush forward inside the castle grounds. He wonders if they will die faster from being hit by a spoon. Count Gular watches from above as explosions strike near him. Kim Hanul exhales and admits it is not as easy as he thought. He considers drinking some water and reaches toward a bottle on his desk. Dark energy rises behind him. His hand freezes before touching the bottle. He looks down in shock and realizes something is wrong with his body. The system displays that other actions are restricted during play. Kim Hanul clenches his fist in frustration. He concludes that for now, he just has to shut up and play the game. With movement restricted, he realizes he has no choice but to keep clicking for defense for 60 hours. For an ordinary person, this would already be a despair-inducing difficulty, but the game starts now. The wyvern opens his mouth wide, flames gathering inside. A massive explosion of fire erupts downward toward the barrier. The system repeatedly reports that one durability has been consumed. Kim Hanul reminds himself that this thrill is why he played this game. He keeps clicking. The system displays that elapsed time so far is 2 hours and 3 minutes. Remaining time is 57 hours and 57 minutes. The penalty is world destruction and various adverse conditions. Kim Hanul declares that this is not a reason for him to give up. He continues pressing forward in front of the screen. Kim Hanul raises his head and tells the game to try him. His eyes darken, and he bares his teeth as he focuses on the screen, saying, "Let's see who wins." Inside the castle, goblins continue throwing spoons at the flying monsters. The system reports that one wyvern took 1 damage, one half-drake took 1 damage, and another wyvern took 1 damage. Kim Hanul notes that 12 hours have already passed. He realizes there are 48 hours left. He observes that, even though it is only 1 damage at a time, the damage is gradually piling up. If he keeps attacking like this, he can take them down. A half-drake takes 1 damage. 2 wyverns fall from the sky. The system reports that 2 wyverns died. It displays that the remaining monsters are 59 out of 61. Kim Hanul finally sees them starting to fall. He believes that if he holds out like this, he can do it. The system updates that the remaining monsters are 56 out of 61. Kim Hanul continues clicking in front of the glowing screen as light from the window shines into the room. The system displays that the remaining monsters are 51 out of 61. Kim Hanul grits his teeth as the number drops to 49 out of 61. A large wyvern descends from the sky, while smaller ones scatter below it. The system reports that 2 half-drakes died. It then reports that 1 wyvern died. Count Gular stands onto the massive red dragon, facing the blue barrier. His eyes widen slightly. The system reports that 1 half-drake took 1 damage. The wyvern falls from the sky. The system reports that 1 wyvern died and 1 half-drake died. It displays that the remaining monsters are 2 out of 61. Kim Hanul lowers his head, breathing heavily. He notes that only 2 are left now. He reaches out and continues clicking. Suddenly, multiple warning alerts appear. The system shows durability at 5 out of 100. Inside the castle, a goblin is struck and sent flying. A powerful attack crashes down against the barrier. The red dragon swings its body and releases a blazing breath toward the blue shield. Explosions erupt. As the attack collides with the barrier, an explosion strikes the barrier, and its durability drops to 0-100. The system reports that the barrier's durability has been fully depleted, and informs that the barrier is destroyed. Kim Hanul stares ahead in shock and lets out a broken sound of disbelief. Sweat runs down his face as he realizes this is bad. He understands that he dozed off for a second and could not repair it. He thinks that if the castle takes even a single hit, it will be over. Gano charges forward, blue energy swirling around his body. Kim Hanul shouts in alarm. From the red sky, the wyvern streaks forward at high speed. Gano rushes ahead to meet the attack as a massive red limb swings down toward him. He leaps upward, dark energy flaring behind him, and clashes against the incoming strike. A violent explosion bursts out as the two collide, and Gano cuts the wyvern, sending debris and blood flying. Gano pushes through the impact and lands amid falling rubble, still surrounded by blue energy. Kim Hanul watches with wide, trembling eyes as dust and fragments scatter across the sky lit by the setting sun. Gano remains suspended in the air as debris falls around him. Below, the enemy crashes into the ground. The system congratulates the player and reports that the 701st wave has been cleared. In his room, Kim Hanul turns toward the light from the window and mutters in disbelief. His eyes tremble as he processes what happened. He suddenly shouts that he cleared it. Laughing breathlessly, he says he actually did it. His body gives out, and he collapses onto the floor. Later, lying face down, he groans. He wonders if he passed out like that and then complains that his head hurts. A notification sound rings. Kim Hanul lifts his head slightly and reacts in confusion. The system displays the 701st Wave reward settlement. It reports that Count Gular and the Dragon Child unit he leads have been defeated, adding that the Count could not have imagined in his wildest dreams that he and his elites would be beaten to death by a spoon. The system reports item acquisition: 20 wyvern bones, 10 drake scales, and 5 drake hearts. Kim Hanul, now sitting on the floor, looks at the rewards and remarks that these are monster loot. He wonders what they are used for and asks if there is a specific use for them like in the game. The system reports that 3 conditions remain until the skill conversation with the monarch is unlocked. It lists the completed conditions as defending a monster wave and playing for over 50 hours. It then informs that upon fulfilling the remaining 3 conditions, conversation with the monarch will be unlocked. Kim Hanul repeats the phrase conversation with the monarch and wonders why there are so many unlock conditions. He then brushes it off, thinking that since he has already cleared 2 of them, he should be able to use it soon. The system displays that it is checking the final reward. Kim Hanul reacts in confusion and repeats the words final reward. A bright light suddenly bursts out in front of him, filling the room with blue rays and sparkling particles. A glowing rectangular panel forms within the light. He steps back, staring at it in shock, and letting out a confused sound. He realizes something unusual is happening. The scene shifts to his desk, where his phone lies with a notification on the screen. Scene shifts outside a tall building named as Pungbek Guild. A man says that he still do not understand. Yoon Sua asks what it is, calling him Oppa. The man explains that the guy is an E rank, questioning how he hunted an ogre. He insists it is a scam, and claims the man probably just took credit for something someone else killed. Yoon Sua mentions that she heard that guy underwent a reawakening recently. The man is identified as Pungbek Guild's Vice Guild Master, S rank Yoon Soo Hyuk. He scoffs and says he cannot believe that. Yoon Soo Hyuk states that reawakening is not something that happens often to begin with. Still, he admits it did not seem like a lie. Yoon Soo reacts in confusion. Kim Hanul suddenly runs toward them and shouts that he apologizes, adding that he has waited a long time. Kim Hanul bows deeply and apologizes, explaining that he was not in a condition to take calls for a few days. Yoon Soo Hyuk questions whether saying sorry is enough to fix it, and points out that he ignored his sister's calls for 3 days straight. Flames burst up around Yoon Soo Hyuk as he releases his power. Yoon Soo gasps. Kim Hanul trembles and asks if this man is Yoon Soo Hyuk. Yoon Soo tells her brother not to do that. Yoon Soo Hyuk starts to respond, but she cuts him off firmly and tells him to keep quiet. Kim Hanul thinks that this guy is the Vice Guild Master of the Pungbek Guild, and Yoon Soo's older brother. He questions whether he came along with his sister. Yoon Soo tells Kim Hanul that it is okay, and that he already explained his situation. Kim Hanul thanks her for understanding. She then says that, as mentioned before, she wants to help him process the ogre carcass, and asks whether they should handle the settlement or the association report first. Kim Hanul considers it, and says that in that case, he will start with the association report. Later, the staff member adjusts her glasses, and begins by saying that they are claiming hunter Kim Hanul hunted the ogre. She confirms that she verified it and explains that given the situation at the time, there was no room for another hunter to intervene. However, since there is no separate evidence, she hesitates. Yoon Soo Hyuk stands behind Kim Hanul, with flames rising around him, and asks if she is saying she does not believe them now. The staff member quickly clarifies that since the claim comes from 2 members of the Pungbek Guild, she does believe it. She adds that the ogre he hunted is a monster ranked from C rank up to at least B rank, so a verification process is required. Yoon Soo repeats the words verification process. The staff member explains that they will measure his stats to see if he is actually capable of hunting the monster, using a mana measuring device. A large red crystal device stands in a chamber prepared for the measurement. Yoon Soo thinks that she knows Kim Hanul underwent a reawakening but has not yet figured out what his stats are. She wonders if there is another way. Then Kim Hanul agrees. He smiles and says they should proceed with the measurement right now. Later, the device activates, and a notice states that Hunter Kim Soo Won's stat measurement is complete, then declares that the rank is D rank. Yoon Soo wonders what will happen if Kim Hanul's stat measurement results are bad and thinks the situation could become awkward for no reason. Yoon Soo Hyuk says this is actually a good thing. He explains that he was curious about what kind of potential Kim Hanul possessed that made the constellation take an interest in him first. He adds that if he does not have any abilities, they can simply ignore him from now on. Kim Hanul stands before the large red crystal. The mana measuring device reports that no physical enhancement potions have been consumed. No items are currently equipped. Kim Hanul places his hand on the crystal and thinks that it has been a while since he used a mana measuring device. He recalls that, like every hunter, he measured his mana there 7 years ago, and that day he felt despair over his stats, which were nothing more than E rank. The mana measuring device identifies him as registrant number 208 Hunter Kim Hanul, then reports that mana measurement is commencing. The crystal begins to glow, and red energy gathers around it. A bright light bursts out from the center. Yoon Soo Hyuk and Yoon Soo watch from behind. Yoon Soo Hyuk reacts in confusion. The crystal emits another intense flash of light, then reports that the measurement is complete. The device displays the analysis result and states that user Kim Hanul's mana rank is S rank. Yoon Soo Hyuk and Yoon Soo stare at the crystal in shock. People nearby widen their eyes and shout in disbelief. Kim Hanul looks at the glowing crystal with a faint smile forming on his face. Well, before some time, the system reports that it is checking the final reward for the 701st wave. Kim Hanul wonders what the final reward is. The system displays Monarch's Afterimage LV1 and informs that a new skill has been acquired. Monarch's Afterimage allows the user to add the stats of the strongest monster from the wave just cleared to their own stats, with a time limit of 30 minutes per day, and if all 30 minutes are consumed, it cannot be activated again until the next day. Kim Hanul pauses and realizes that he can use the stats of the strongest monster from the wave exactly as they are, like the stats of Count Gular 2. Well, in present, Kim Hanul uses this skill. The system states that the skill effect adds Count Gular's stats to all of Kim Hanul's stats. His strength becomes 70% from 10 plus 60, agility 86 from 6 plus 80, stamina 83 from 13 plus 70, and spirit 55 from 5 plus 50. Kim Hanul walks away from the crystal and reflects that he was lucky to obtain a skill like this right when his stats were being measured. He considers that even though it lasts only 30 minutes a day, while using the skill he possesses S-rank stats. To others who do not know this, he will simply appear as a newly emerged S-rank rookie. Yoon Soo stands beside Yoon Soo Hyuk while they watch him. Yoon Soo-hyuk remarks that Kim Han-ul is quite good, though not as good as himself, since he already obtained S rank during his initial awakening. Yoon Soo acknowledges Kim Han-ul's performance and gives him credit for the work done there. Kim Han-ul expresses his thanks. Kim Han-ul asks whether this proves that he hunted the ogre, or if there is another procedure remaining. Someone reacts in surprise. A staff member explains that the verification was completed with the last measurement, and adds that the remeasurement records will be sent by tomorrow. Kim Han-ul notes that everything went smoothly, thanks to them, and expresses his appreciation. Yoon Soo responds that it was not their doing, and that Kim Han-ul was the one who worked hard. Kim Han-ul states that he will be heading back now. Yoon Soo-hyuk calls out to Kim Han-ul and suggests grabbing a cup of coffee later, explaining that he is offering this as the vice guildmaster of the Pungbeg Guild. People nearby notice the situation and remark that a scout from the Pungbeg Guild is present, that the vice guildmaster is personally scouting him, and that Yoon Soo is also there with him. Kim Han-ul declines the coffee and tells he will contact Yoon Soo later regarding anything from Pungbeg Guild. Yoon Soo blushes slightly. Yoon Soo-hyuk looks surprised and wonders what is wrong with that guy. Later, an online post reports that an S-rank hunter appeared in the measurement room that day. Comments appear, with someone wondering how many years it has been since such a thing happened, while another says it is amazing and mentions that after checking the information, the person seems to be a completely unknown rookie. Kim Han-ul sits at his computer and reflects that he became this famous overnight. The broadcast begins, and the live chat opens as the stream starts. A notification from the Hunter Association informs that based on the day's magic measurement results, Kim Han-ul's hunter license has been upgraded 3 ranks from E rank to B rank, and starting that day he is eligible to participate in expeditions for all gates and dungeons of B rank and below. Kim Han-ul notes that he wanted to be promoted straight to S rank, but the association's regulations allow advancement of only 3 ranks at a time. He lies back in his chair and remarks that it is a shame but it cannot be helped. A chat message appears, saying that Broken Game Bro has started his stream. The live chat fills with messages, with someone mentioning that the news reported a new S rank appearing in Korea, and another saying they saw that news as well. Kim Han-ul greets the viewers and confirms that he also saw that article. In the chat, someone asks if it is really true that Yoon Soo-hyuk of the Pungbeg Guild personally brought him in. Another reacts with surprise and asks if that story is true. Someone else adds that they also heard Yoon Soo was with him, and another wonders if that means he will definitely join the Pungbeg Guild. Another claims that Yoon Soo-hyuk actually asked him to join the Pungbeg Guild, but he refused, which causes someone else to question whether that is true. Kim Han-ul thinks that those people probably have no idea they are talking about him right now. He then addresses the viewers and says that since they are already discussing hunters, he prepared some new content for that day. The viewers react with curiosity and ask what the new content is. Kim Han-ul explains that what he prepared this time is hunter-related content. Viewers comment that it is expected from Broken Game Hunter Bro and ask what he plans to do. He begins to explain that he is going to take recommendations for a dungeon to clear. The viewers react with surprise and ask if he is planning to broadcast himself clearing a dungeon, while another points out that such an act is prohibited by law. Well, they are right, cause actually hunters must maintain confidentiality, and broadcasting or recording dungeon activities is a clear violation of hunter law and considered illegal. Kim Han-ul acknowledges this and explains that instead he will clear the dungeon and verify it with a clearance certificate, then share stories within the permitted limits. The viewers respond with excitement, saying they love it and that the content will be very fun. Kim Han-ul continues by explaining that everyone says dungeons are confidential and worries about leaking know-how, so even the guilds keep their mouths shut. If that is the case, when it comes to dungeons, the Mad Dragon's Nest should be the perfect example. A viewer donates 50,000 won. Someone comments that the Giant's Dining Room is better than that, while a female excitedly suggests going to the Giant's Dining Room. As for now, she donates 1 million won. A bald man suggests going to the Spider's Forest and ripping off one of the Spider Queen's legs. The female points out that the person immediately sent 1 million won. Baldy viewer adds that they can send some too. Kim Han-ul asks everyone to calm down for a moment. Suddenly, another notification appears showing that viewer 1 donated 10 million won. Kim Han-ul reacts in shock at the 10 million won donation. Others also express surprise and wonder if that person is a macro user, while another comments that the person must have a lot of money. Viewer 1 explains that he did not know how to write a message while donating, and apologizes. Kim Han-ul wonders where this viewer 1 came from, and why they are suddenly dropping 10 million won. He then addresses the viewer, and asks which dungeon they would like to recommend. Viewer 1 begins to recommend a dungeon. The recommended dungeon is the depths of the Garden of Contemplation. Other viewers react with disbelief and question whether the person is crazy, pointing out that no one has ever cleared that dungeon. They then ask Broken Game Bro, Kim Han-ul, if he is actually going to attempt that dungeon. Kim Han-ul thinks about the Garden of Contemplation, and recalls that the dungeon is made up of 3 zones: the entrance, the center, and the depths. He explains that the entrance, known as the main gate, is a relatively safe hunting ground, but the danger level rises exponentially from the lake located in the center. As far as he knows, No one has ever challenged the depths yet. The current record is clearing the center, and the one who achieved that record was Yoon Soo-hyuk. Kim Hanul remembers Yoon Soo-hyuk saying that even he reached his limit at the center. He then questions whether he is being asked to challenge the depths. After thinking for a moment, he admits that the request is a bit too much. Viewer 1 explains that he does not necessarily have to clear the dungeon, and will consider the mission a success as long as Kim Hanul reaches the depths. Kim Hanul reacts with surprise, and asks if that means he does not have to clear it. Viewer 1 confirms this, and adds that if Kim Hanul attempts to clear it, he promises to provide all the necessary support. Other viewers react with concern, and say that this is not right no matter how they look at it. They warn that even the center is extremely dangerous, and that if he dies, everything will be over. Kim Hanul admits that the dungeon is definitely dangerous. However, if he does not have to clear it, he considers whether it might be possible to simply go to the depths and return. He thinks that if viewer 1, the person with mysterious power, is going to help him, then the chance might not be zero. After a brief pause, he makes his decision about the depths of the Garden of Contemplation, and declares that he will go. Later, at the Hunter Bureau, Kim Hanul mentions the Garden of Contemplation again. The staff member asks if he will be applying for a solo expedition. Kim Hanul confirms that he wants to apply for a solo expedition to the depths. The staff member reacts with concern and says that going to the depths alone is incredibly dangerous. Kim Hanul calmly replies that it is fine and asks her to proceed. She acknowledges the request and says the earliest schedule would be in a week. Kim Hanul asks if there might be any earlier dates available. He then explains that since it is a solo expedition, he can leave any time. The staff member considers the request and suggests scheduling it for tomorrow, mentioning that there happens to be one opening. Kim Hanul agrees that the arrangement is fine. She confirms that the expedition will be scheduled for 4 p.m. tomorrow. Kim Hanul thanks her and says that he will be leaving. He walks out of the building. Outside, someone calls out and asks if he is Hunter Kim Hanul. Two people approach him and ask for a moment of his time. The man introduces himself as Pyo Myung-hoon, the HR manager for the Aegis Guild, while the woman introduces herself as Jung So-won, the HR manager for the Mercenary Guild. Kim Hanul looks at the business cards and recognizes that this must be because of his S-rank evaluation 2 days ago. Jung So-won explains that the Mercenary Guild is always looking for talented individuals like him, and Pyo Myung-hoon adds that the same applies to the Aegis Guild. Kim Hanul realizes that Mercenary and Aegis are two of Korea's big 3 guilds, along with the Poonbae Guild. They tell him that they can offer him much better terms than whatever proposal the Poonbae Guild might have given him. Kim Hanul says that he appreciates the offer, but he has something he needs to take care of first and suggests talking later. One of them tries to stop him and begins mentioning the signing bonus, but Kim Hanul walks away. He thinks that joining a guild right now will not help him and would only hold him back. His priority right now is something else. Later, while on the phone, Kim Hanul asks about the Garden of Contemplation. Vice Guild leader Yoon Soo-hyuk says that he remembers the place and asks why Kim Hanul is asking about it. Kim Hanul explains that he is planning to enter the inner depths of the Garden of Contemplation. Yoon Soo-hyuk points out that even clearing the central area had been difficult, and questions why he wants to go to the depths. Kim Hanul confirms that he knows and explains that he contacted him because he was hoping to get some information. Yoon Soo-hyuk asks why he should tell him anything. Kim Hanul responds that he has the means to clear the entire Garden of Contemplation. Yoon Soo-hyuk reacts with disbelief and asks if he is serious. Kim Hanul confirms that he is serious, and says that if he succeeds, he will tell the media that he did it with the help of the Poonbae Guild. He then asks if Yoon Soo-hyuk is interested in sharing the information now. Yoon Soo-hyuk remarks that Kim Hanul seems to have something prepared, and asks if he is really claiming he can clear it alone. Kim Hanul confirms that it is true. Yoon Soo-hyuk pauses and says that in that case he wants to make a proposal of his own, suggesting that Kim Hanul first join their guild. Kim Hanul immediately declines, explaining that he will refuse any guild contracts. Yoon Soo-hyuk insists that their guild is currently the only one showing interest in him. Kim Hanul explains that earlier that morning 2 people he had never met gave him their business cards, naming Jung So-won from Sanare and Pyo Myung-hoon from Aegis. Yoon Soo-hyuk asks if those people came to see him personally. Realizing the situation, he thinks that the two must have already caught on. Kim Hanul then explains that his proposal should be even more appealing, saying that it would allow the guild to mark its territory again on a talent their rivals are watching. After thinking it over, Yoon Soo-hyuk sighs and admits that he has no choice. He clarifies that his knowledge only goes as far as the central area, and that he knows nothing about the inner depths, adding that the dungeon's interior may have changed over the past year. He concludes by saying that if Kim Hanul is fine with that, he will share everything he knows. Kim Hanul says that is more than enough. Later, he arrives at a massive tower and sees a group already gathered in front of the tower. He notes that everyone is already there, and that he seems to be the last one to arrive. Without hesitation, he equipped the item named as Beholder's Glasses. A Baldy notices him and asks if he is the guy who said he would be coming alone today. Then he introduces himself as Jo Gwang-soo of the Indomitable Guild, and greets him. Kim Hanul returns the greeting and says he knows who he is. Jo Gwang-soo recognizes him as the person who recently received an S rank in the mana measurement, and Kim Hanul remarks that word travels fast. Jo Guangsu comments that it must be nice being an S rank, as some of them had to wait a whole month to coordinate their schedules and fill the roster. Yet Kim Hanul simply applied solo and still got dropped into the same gate. As they shake hands, he adds that once they are inside, Kim Hanul will be on his own. He continues that unlike Kim Hanul, their guild has its own business to attend to, so he should not expect any help from them. Kim Hanul responds that it is fine by him. Jo Guangsu scoffs and warns him not to think that an S-rank mana measurement means anything, adding that mana ranks are meaningless in actual combat. Kim Hanul thinks their reaction was pricklier than expected and considers that from their perspective he would probably look like an eyesore. He reflects that he was lucky to get in right away, while normally a minimum party size is required and a dungeon must be booked a month in advance. They likely waited a month for this, so it is natural they would be sensitive about him tagging along at the last minute. He adjusts his glasses and decides to see for himself. The system begins activating Sage's Eye. With the ability active, ranks appear above the gathered hunters, and Kim Hanul observes that none of them seem capable of following him into the depths. He thinks it is lucky there are no witnesses, since that baldy had been talking so confidently. Jo Guangsu glances back with a puzzled look. Kim Hanul thinks that the baldy is only around C rank, and that he will not have to worry about running into him. Jo Guangsu notices Kim Hanul, and demands to know why he is smirking back there. Kim Hanul apologizes and explains that he just thought of something funny. Another person asks if he was laughing at them, then asks if he was actually laughing about how their boss worked so hard that he went bald. A man tells them that is enough chatter. He gathers energy between his hands and announces that it is time to open the gate. Green energy surges outward as the portal forms. He warns that the gate will not stay open long and tells everyone to head inside as quickly as possible. The group moves toward the portal. Kim Hanul steps into the gate, noting that this is his first time entering a dungeon. After passing through, he prepares himself and decides to see what they are up against. They enter in the dungeon named as Garden of Contemplation, limit of 20 people, condition-based clear type, breakthrough. Far above a floating island, Viewer 1 sits upon a throne-like structure, watching over the glowing land below. He then announces that Kim Hanul has arrived, then wishes him the best of luck. After this, Viewer 1 that modify the structure of the Garden of Contemplation by the request of the monarch's castle. Moments later, the hunters pass through the portal and arrive inside the dungeon. Jo Guangsu looks around and senses that something is not right. He becomes uneasy and wonders what kind of place this is. The group watches a tree and stands at the edge of the water, staring at the scene. Jo Guangsu realizes that this is not the main entrance. A man asks if there was a lake like this at the main entrance. A woman answers that something is wrong, explaining that the entrance she saw before did not look like this. Another person agrees and asks where they are. Kim Hanul observes the surroundings and finds the situation strange. He recalls that the entrance should normally be simple and cleared by hunting pygmalets in a vast meadow. But Kim Hanul notes that the current place is completely different from what Yoon Soo-hyuk described. Well, maybe this might not be the entrance after all. The dungeon welcomes them to the lake of the Garden of Contemplation and informs them that their mission will now begin. The hunters look toward the lake in confusion. One of them asks what that message was, while another realizes that the place in front of them is the lake. Someone else wonders how this situation happened. The system reports that too many pygmalets have been slaughtered, and that the pygmalets have now stopped moving. Then assigns a mission to protect the pygmalets from the slaughterers until nightfall. Then informs them that success will allow them to pass through the lake and enter the inner depths. Upon failure, all challengers will die. The hunters react with shock, and one of them cannot believe they are being told they will die. Another angrily asks how such a mission can suddenly be forced on them. Someone suggests to Jo Guangsu that they should give up, since it is still the beginning and they can simply forfeit and leave. Guangsu immediately tells everyone to open their status windows and forfeit right away, but he suddenly realizes that he cannot leave. A hunter asks what is happening. Guangsu reveals that he has been trying to leave, but it is not allowing him to exit, and the status window is not responding. The system tells that the current number of pygmalets remaining is 130, then reports that 2 pygmalets have already perished at the hands of the slaughterer. Kim Hanul looks ahead while the others stare in shock. The system updates that the current number of pygmalets remaining is now 128. The slayer has killed 2 pygmalets. Guangsu grits his teeth in frustration and demands to know what is going on. He then calls out to Kim Hanul and asks if he knows what is happening or anything about the lake. Kim Hanul answers that he is not sure why this situation is happening, but he does know about the lake. Hearing this, Guangsu feels relieved and asks him to explain, promising that they will help him with whatever he needs in return. Kim Hanul reflects that normally everyone here is supposed to mind their own business. Honest says he has one condition. He says that he will share what he knows if they follow his orders until they clear this place, and asks if they can agree to that. The hunters react with surprise, realizing that he is asking them to hand over full command of the guild. The system again reports that the slayer has roasted 4 pygmalets, and that the remaining pygmalets are now 124. Guangsu grits his teeth and reluctantly accepts, warning Kim Hanul that if this goes wrong, the responsibility will fall on him. Kim Hanul responds that it is unfair because they were clearly given a choice, and the responsibility for that decision lies with them. After a brief pause, Guangsu gives in and asks for the plan. Kim Hanul begins by explaining the terrain. He shows them the map of the lake sector and explains that there is a massive lake at the center. Streams from all over the forest connect together and feed directly into that lake. Guangsu asks how he knows all of this. Kim Hanul explains that he has a scouting skill that allows him to generate a map of the surroundings. Guangsu reacts with surprise, thinking that with a skill like that they would never get lost in a dungeon. Kim Hanul quietly admits that the layout actually matches the information Yoon Soo-hyuk gave him, and that it is not truly a skill, but in reality it is all thanks to Viewer 1 that gave Kim Hanul access of the Garden of Meditation map, provided by the Lord's Castle of Illusions. Kim Hanul kneels on the ground and draws while thinking that they already have the map from the castle, so they are prepared. He explains that their mission is simple: save the pygmalets from the Slayer. That means they must find the pygmalets first. Pygmalets live in wetlands, so based on their habits, 8 zones are likely their nesting grounds. From now on they must reach those locations before the Slayer does. He explains that they will gather the pygmalets into one place where they are easier to protect. That is the entire plan. The system warns that the Slayer has turned 3 pygmalets into jerky, and that the remaining pygmalets are now 121. Kim Hanul tells the group that if they understand the plan, they should move out. The pygmalets are dying while they are standing there. The group immediately begins moving as Kim Hanul orders them to move from west to south and follow the watch rotation, reminding them that everyone already knows their positions and must move. Guangsu watches him and asks what Kim Hanul will do. Kim Hanul explains that he will search for the pygmalets on his own. Guangsu looks back at him with irritation, but eventually accepts it and tells him they will meet again later. After the others leave, Kim Hanul feels relieved to finally be alone, and decides it is time to scout the area. The system informs that the Lord's Castle of Illusions has provided hidden information about the Garden of Meditation's lake, and reveals that a hidden mission exists, instructing him to find it and claim the reward. Kim Hanul decides that he must figure out what the hidden mission is, and prepares himself to begin. While walking through the forest, he notes that there are 2 things he must discover during his scouting. The first is the hidden mission, and the second is the identity of the killers slaughtering the pygmalets. He also realizes that there seem to be other monsters in the area besides the pygmalets, and wonders what kind of creatures they are. Suddenly he notices movement in the forest. Several large reptilian monsters appear, and he recognizes them as lizard men. Kim Hanul concludes that these creatures must be the slaughterers killing the pygmalets. The situation has become complicated, cause lizard men are normally only D-rank monsters, but a large pack like this is a different matter, so for now he decides to avoid combat. Nearby, one of the hunters questions why he should listen to Kim Hanul. He insists that he will not follow orders from someone like him. Suddenly Kim Hanul notices them and becomes alarmed, realizing that they are coming in his direction. The hunter mentions that he thought they could simply kill time there and leave. At that moment, a lizard man leaps down from above and attacks the hunter. In an instant he cuts the man's head. The lizard man prepares to counter the second hunter, but the hunter with the red headband notices the creature and recognizes it as a lizard man. He charges forward and curses the monster, declaring that it is only a measly D-rank creature and daring it to face him. The system displays that the lizard man is rank D. He throws a powerful punch toward the lizard man, and the impact explodes outward with force. Enraged, the man shouts that the creature is dead, and launches another attack. The system informs that the lizard men receive a swarm bonus. As more lizard men surround him, the system displays that their rank increases from D class to B class. The man realizes something is wrong and reacts in confusion. The surrounding lizard men attack together, striking him repeatedly. One of them swings its weapon downward and slams him to the ground while another prepares another strike. The lizard man swings its weapon downward, but then our MC's first Pokemon, Gano, suddenly appears and blocks the strike. Gano stands in front of the injured hunter, surrounded by blue energy. The man stares in shock and recognizes him as a goblin, wondering where he came from. Kim Hanul approaches from behind and calmly reminds him that he was given a designated area to stay in. The injured man tries to explain that it is a misunderstanding, and claims he only took a wrong turn. Kim Hanul shows little interest in the excuse, and states that he did not expect much anyway. He tells the man to go back and treat his wounds, and adds that he will handle things here. The injured hunter thanks him, and quickly runs away. Kim Hanul then tells Gano that they are running out of time. Gano stands ready, while Kim Hanul instructs him to wrap things up quickly because they have a quest to complete, while at this time bro is just trying to farm some aura, cause he orders Gano to wipe them all out. Gano immediately rushes forward with a burst of blue energy. Gano activates Eat Raven's wing beat of rank A. Gano moves in an instant. The lizard men's turn in alarm, but the attacks reach them before they can react. In the next moment, a powerful strike cuts through one of the lizard men. Gano continues moving at high speed, crashing through another enemy and sending it flying across the ground. Blue energy surges again as another lizardman is struck and knocked away. The remaining lizardmen are hit in rapid succession as Gano tears through the group with continuous slashes. Kim Hanul watches calmly and notes that this is not even a fight because the enemies are no match for Gano. Gano could probably take down an ogre by himself. A lizardman suddenly charges toward him, Kim Hanul notices the movement and wonders if the lizardman is coming for him. The lizardman leaps down with its weapon raised. Kim Hanul realizes that he apparently looks like an easier target than Gano to them. He activates Lord's Afterimage. This skill allows the user to add the stats of the strongest monster from the previous wave to his own stats. The time limit is 30 minutes per day, and once the 30 minutes are used, the skill cannot be activated again until the next day. Kim Hanul's fist ignites with power, and he strikes the attacking lizardmen. The impact explodes outward as the monster is smashed away by the punch. Debris and blood scatter across the ground as the lizardman crashes down. Bro farmed this much aura, cause he uses Count Gular all stats. Kim Hanul turns as he hears Gono behind him making excited sounds. He looks back and notes that Gono seems to be finished as well. Gono stands proudly while holding the large bloodied club. Kim Hanul responds with mild approval and pats Gono on the head. He then notes that Gono took out all 7 lizardmen already. The system informs that Gono's affinity has increased by 10. The system reports that 8 low-grade mana stones are being sold. It then displays that the current gold is 370, and explains that the first sale of a mana stone containing a lizardman's soul grants 1 premium gacha ticket from the Lord's Castle of Illusions. Kim Hanul notices the reward, and comments that it is another gacha ticket, deciding that he will use it after the mission ends. Gono tells Kim Hanul to watch the time while standing beside him. The system informs that 7 minutes remain until the goblin slave returns to the Lord's castle. Kim Hanul remembers that there is a time limit, and thinks that it would be troublesome if Gono leaves, wondering if there is any way around it. Gono happily continues making sounds while looking pleased. The system informs that gold can be paid to extend Gono's summon time, at the cost of 5 gold per 10 minutes. Kim Hanul reacts with disbelief that extending the time also costs money, but decides that he has no choice and will pay for the overtime. He gently pats Gono on the head, while Gono makes happy sounds. A sudden rustling sound draws Kim Hanul's attention, and he turns in confusion. The ground around them begins filling with pig mallets. Kim Hanul stares at the scene and wonders where all of them came from, then realizes this is bad because moving with so many of them will be difficult. Gono chuckles while watching them. The pig mallets continue gathering and squeaking loudly around Kim Hanul and Gono. Kim Hanul suddenly realizes that Gono can communicate with them. Gono shouts toward the pig mallets, and they react with cheerful squealing. Kim Hanul becomes confused by their sudden behavior and asks what has gotten into them. He then turns to Gono and asks what he said to make them act like that. After this, the pig mallets follow Kim Hanul. Kim Hanul decides that they have no choice but to stick together with the pig mallets for now. He then decides that they should finish scouting the area. Standing in the forest among the fallen lizardmen, Kim Hanul praises Gono for his work while Gono responds happily. The system informs that the Lord's Castle has run out of funds to purchase mana stones, and that mana stones cannot be collected from hunting until more funds are secured. The system also reports that the unit limit for the Lord's Castle has been exceeded. It displays that the limit has been reached with 10 lizardmen warriors, 5 lizardmen crossbowmen, and 5 lizardmen spearmen. Kim Hanul realizes that he never expected the Lord's Castle to actually run out of gold, and that there is also a limit to how many of the same monster he can command. He concludes that there is no point in hunting more lizardmen, and reminds himself that the mission was to save the pig mallets anyway. Looking at the crowd of pig mallets, he estimates that he has saved about 60 of them so far. The system displays that the remaining pig mallets are 70. Kim Hanul remarks that this means the Bulugal Guild only managed to save 10. After a moment, he pauses and begins to think. Suddenly the pig mallets start moving rapidly, rushing away in a group. Kim Hanul quickly turns and calls out in confusion, asking where they are going. Gono also reacts with confusion beside him. The pig mallets suddenly rush forward together, and Kim Hanul runs after them with Gono following behind. They continue sprinting through the forest until the pig mallets finally stop. Kim Hanul catches his breath and notes that they finally stopped. He then looks around and wonders where they are. In front of them, the pig mallets gather in a large group, while several people stand nearby. Kim Hanul realizes that they are at the center of the lake, and that everyone else is here as well. Relieved, Guangsu remarks that the pig mallets startled him when they suddenly started sprinting like maniacs. After a moment, Kim Hanul begins to think, and realizes that the pig mallets led all of them there. The system reports that the slaughterers have stopped hunting the pig mallets, and that night has fallen. The remaining pig mallets are 70, and the mission is complete because the pig mallets were protected from the slayer. Also, a hidden objective has been met because over 70 pig mallets survived. One hunter sighs in relief and remarks that it is finally over. Looking around the dungeon, he complains that the dungeon should just let him out already instead of wasting his time with messages. Moments later, a bright surge of water erupts downward from the lake. Guangsu Men shouts in shock, unable to understand what is happening. Kim Hanul watches the scene calmly as the system announces that the trial of meditation begins now. A powerful surge of water-like energy rushes forward, striking the figures. One cries out in pain as the force hits, while another is driven back under the impact. Kim Hanul raises his arm to shield himself, startled, realizing he cannot dodge the incoming attack as the force closes in on him. Suddenly, multiple pig-mallets appear around him, glowing with golden light. He reacts in confusion at their sudden presence. The pig-mallets surround both him and Gano, forming a barrier as the energy crashes against them. Kim Hanul recognizes them as pig-mallets. He wonders if they are protecting them. Kim Hanul stands beside Gano while the creatures make small sounds. The system informs that the pig-mallets, saved from the slaughterer, express their gratitude. One of the pig-mallets cries out, and the system states that they will now protect him. The scene shifts as Kim Hanul and his companion stand while the surroundings settle. The system instructs to endure for 10 minutes, indicating a countdown of 10. Kim Hanul looks ahead, admitting he did not see this coming, then reflects that those pig-mallets actually possess this kind of power, and that there was a reason he had saved them. The system states that the gathered heart begins the trial of the gathered heart. Kim Hanul thinks that he had wondered what this trial was about, but now the pig-mallets he saved are the ones protecting him. He considers that the more he saves, the safer he becomes, then pauses as another thought comes to him, and questions what about the others. He notices Baldy struggling nearby as the water-like force continues to surge. Realizing something, he wonders if Zhou Guangsu only saved one. He observes that the person is barely holding on, and questions whether they can last until the end and survive the remaining time. He concludes that it is not just Zhou Guangsu, but the other hunters are in the same situation. Thinking further, he considers that if saving the pig-mallets is the key as he thought, then everyone except him is in serious trouble. He resolves that he has to find a way, but questions how. As he reacts in confusion, the system announces that a hidden mission has been discovered. The system presents the hidden mission to suppress the source of the trial, and instructs to find and defeat the monster that is the source of the trial of meditation, stating that the trial will end immediately upon its defeat. Kim Hanul recalls that the information from the Lord's castle mentioned a hidden mission within the lake to find and claim a reward. He realizes that it had said there was a hidden mission in the lake, and that although he searched every inch of the field and found nothing, it had been here all along. Kim Hanul decides to proceed, and activates the skill, Sage's Eye. He prepares himself, thinking he will see what kind of opponent he needs to kill. He moves forward through the space as the system detects a monster applicable to the count, and prompts whether to activate Sage's Eye. He confirms that he has found it, and the system activates the skill. The system reveals the target as Zen Karuk, a named monster, displaying its stats, along with skills including Cataclysmic Wave, Cataclysmic Storm, and Tears of the Ancient God. Kim Hanul reacts in surprise, realizing that the opponent is a named monster. The named monsters are special entities that use unique skills other monsters do not have and possess a completely different level of power. He acknowledges that a hidden mission would not be easy. He tells Gano to hold on and sit this one out. The goblin responds, and Kim Hanul explains that without water resistance, fighting in the lake is too risky for him. Kim Hanul decides that now is the time. The system displays a list of monsters available for trade. Kim Hanul decides that it is time to hire a new monster, and the system activates the Lord's List trade. He selects the option, moving forward as he chooses, deciding to take the one with water resistance, the Ogre Berserker. He notes that unlike Gano, the Ogre does not have any items yet, and realizes that base stats alone are not enough to take down a named monster. He concludes that he needs an item to boost stats immediately, and prepares to use it. Things. The system presents a premium gacha ticket, explaining that it is a special ticket used to obtain rare items. Kim Hanul thinks that if he can get a good item from it, the ogre can face Zen Karuk, and resolves to bet everything on this ticket. System consumes the premium draw ticket as a burst of energy erupts. A golden light appears, and he reacts in shock, realizing that it signifies an S-rank result. He is left staring in surprise, unable to process what just happened. The force of the water current grows stronger, pushing everything violently as the surroundings surge. Kim Hanul is struck by the impact, but continues forward despite the pressure. He brushes it off, deciding there is no time to think, and that he must act immediately. The system informs him that 420 gold has been successfully paid, and that the hiring process is complete. A summoning begins, and the Ogre Berserker appears in front of him with a powerful presence. The creature stands large and imposing, ready for battle. Kim Hanul orders it to equip the item, expecting it to become stronger. However, the ogre suddenly collapses to the ground without warning. He looks at it in confusion, wondering why it has fallen, and whether something went wrong. At that moment, a powerful attack surges through the area again. He struggles against the force, gritting his teeth as he is overwhelmed. Realizing the situation has become critical, he acknowledges that he has no choice, and decides to handle it himself. The system then displays a new ability, Lord's Afterimage, explaining that it adds the stats of the strongest monster from the previous wave to his own, with a limited duration remaining and a restriction on reuse until the next day. He activates the skill, and energy surges through his body as he prepares to fight directly. In an instant, he catches Baldy. He struggles and realizes that even after using Lord's Afterimage, the current is still too strong for him to handle. His grip weakens, and he admits that he cannot hold on any longer. As his strength fades, He feels his grip slipping and wonders if this is the end. Suddenly, he pauses, sensing something unusual. He questions why the current feels like it is weakening, then reacts in confusion. At that moment, a large ogre appears above him. The ogre stands firmly within the current, blocking the force as Kim Hanul falls below. He recognizes it in shock, realizing it is the ogre. The ogre addresses him respectfully, calling him his lord, and asking if he is unharmed, then apologizes for the late greeting, while extending a hand. It humbly declares itself as a servant standing before the King of Kings. Kim Hanul looks up in disbelief, unable to understand what is happening. Seeing this, Kim Hanul is stunned and wonders if he has just created something extraordinary. Kim Hanul reacts in confusion, correcting the ogre by rejecting the idea of it being merely a servant and focusing on it directly. He then demands to know how it is able to speak while facing the ogre. The ogre explains that it is because of the grace given to it by him, addressing him as its liege, and adds that thanks to the hat, it has been reborn. It continues respectfully, again addressing him as its liege. The ogre steadies itself while holding the log as the surrounding current flows. It urges him to give a command. Kim Hanul remains stunned, realizing that although he knew the item would increase intelligence, he did not expect it to be this much, and notes that ogres originally should not be able to speak. He understands that this is not just speaking but actual communication, and adds that if what he saw earlier was correct, this is not all. He then states that he has something to ask before giving a command. The ogre respectfully prompts him to speak. Kim Hanul asks if it can use magic. The ogre confirms that it can, explaining that it had just blocked the water stream using an enchanted log, and concludes that the ogre can use magic as well. He then gives his first command to the ogre berserker, instructing it to pierce through the storm and advance to the center while he follows behind. The ogre accepts the order, expressing that it hears and obeys, and recognizes it as the first mission given by its liege, promising that it will absolutely ensure its success. Wind Ogre charges forward, pushing through the water with force. Kim Hanul realizes that it is working, noting that the magic on the ogre's club is pushing the water spray away, and expresses his trust in it while calling it Odolf. The ogre reacts to the name Odolf, asking if it is being named, and Kim Hanul confirms that since it wears Gandalf's hat, he will call it Odolf from now on. The ogre reflects on being given a name. It then declares that it will dedicate its life to repaying this grace as its power surges. Odolf continues advancing rapidly, clearing the path, while Kim Hanul follows behind. At this rate, Kim Hanul realizes they are going straight to hunt the named monster. Zen Karuk senses their approach and notices that something is coming closer. He's surprised that they managed to pierce through his magic and reach this far. He observes that they are not moving randomly, but still believes they will not be able to reach him. Odolf informs his liege that from here on, the path is blocked by a special barrier magic, and Kim Hanul tells him to try striking a single point with his club to see if it breaks. Odolf begins to explain that the structure is complex and not something simple, but Kim Hanul interrupts, telling him that he is not talking about using magic, and to try breaking it with sheer strength first. Odolf accepts the command. He swings his club and strikes the barrier with force. The barrier trembles from the impact. Zen Karuk recognizes from the earlier breakthrough of the water stream that they must be mages and judges them to be quite strong. However, he concludes that they will not be able to overcome this wave of cataclysm, since the barrier cannot be breached unless both strong magic and physical force are used at the same time. He considered nearly impossible to raise both magical ability and physical strength to a high level at the same time. Because of this, his defensive formula is an unbreakable and invincible shield. Odolf continues striking, but Zen Karuk reacts in confusion, realizing something is wrong as the impact continues. Tells Odolf to keep going, explaining that even bulletproof glass shatters if the same spot is hit repeatedly, and Odolf immediately understands and continues attacking. The barrier begins to crack under the repeated blows, and Zen Karuk is shocked, unable to understand how the barrier is being breached. He questions what this power is. Zen Karuk insists that there is no way a mage could break this barrier, unless that mage's strength is something beyond expectation. Adolf's strike grows even more powerful, and the impact explodes through the barrier. Zen Karuk is overwhelmed as the force breaks through, realizing that the strength being used rivals that of an ogre. After breaking the barrier, Odolf stands firm, and Kim Hanul observes him, acknowledging that the insight of the King of 10,000 Men never fails to impress him. They move straight ahead, intent on hunting the named monster. Zen Karuk noticed them while sensing his magic being pierced. He recognized that they had come close despite his magic, and judged that they were not ordinary opponents, though he believed they would not be able to reach him. He explained that the path ahead was blocked by a special barrier, a complex construct formed with high-level elemental affinities, making it difficult to break through using magic. Zen Karuk struggled to accept that an ogre could destroy such a barrier, though he admitted that an ogre's physical strength could break things. He questioned how it could bypass a magical barrier, and then realized the possibility that Odolf was an ogre shaman. After recognizing this, he accepted the situation and prepared to end the fight. He believed Odolf must have used most of his mana to break the barrier and launched a powerful attack, intending to kill them immediately. Odolph faced the incoming attack and noted that the enemy's momentum was unusual and difficult to block. Kim Hanul instructed him to use long-range magic to keep the enemy in check, and Odolph prepared to follow that command. Kim Hanul thought that if Odolph fired his magic like this, it would work. Zenkarik decided to immediately use a skill and charge forward. At the same time, a powerful attack surged ahead as Odolph throws his log, but Zenkarik reacted with surprise at how quickly it happened. The attack clashed against a prepared defense, and he recognized that they had anticipated his attempt to interrupt with magic. He considered it a foolish move, as he had already prepared a defensive spell and believed no magic could pierce it. Suddenly something broke through, causing Zenkarik to react in confusion as fragments scattered. He realized too late that he might die like this, questioning what kind of magic it was. After that bro just died, still thinking about what kind of magic that was. Kim Hanul observed that it was not magic, and remarked that it looked like Odolph had simply thrown a log. Odolph apologized, explaining that he had not yet properly learned any magic formulas. Kim Hanul accepted it, thinking that a win was still a win. Elsewhere, Yoon So-hyuk urgently insisted to Kang-woo that it was real this time, and that they absolutely had to catch him. Kang-woo looked ahead and began to mention the hunter's name. Well, he is the Pungbek Guildmaster, S-rank Choi Kang-woo, so he questioned whether the name was Kim Hanul. Back at the dungeon, Kim Hanul let out a small breath and wondered if they were done here. Odolph confirmed that they were. Odolph then presented an item, saying that he had found what was needed. Kim Hanul acknowledged it, and told Odolph that it had been an easy finish thanks to him. Odolph responded that it was all due to Kim Hanul's insight. Kim Hanul dismissed that, telling him to stop and to take care of the mana stones first. The system displayed that one special soul stone was being sold. Rewards were being distributed from the monarch's castle, listing one special space development ticket and one premium draw ticket. It further informs that Zenkarik can be deployed during wave defenses. Kim Hanul decides to check the rewards later, while Odolph stands beside him holding the log. Hanul then concludes that they should head back for now, and Odolph agrees. Later, Kim Hanul expresses relief that everyone is safe, and the blue-haired woman recognizes Hunter Hanul. She notes that the water flow stopped, and that they barely survived, then questions if he was the one responsible. Hanul confirms that he took down the monster causing it, and tells her everything is over now so she can relax. She thanks him sincerely, acknowledging that he saved them, while he dismisses it as nothing and asks about the condition of the other hunters. The blue-haired woman explains they are safe now, and that as soon as the storm stopped, they brought them there to treat them. Baldy calls out to Hunter Kim Hanul and approaches, asking him to wait and allow him to speak for a moment. Kim Hanul thinks if Baldy is trying to pick a fight again. Baldy suddenly lowers himself. He expresses sincere gratitude and apologizes for his earlier rudeness, thanking Hanul for saving his guild members. Baldy hesitates, still lowered, but Hanul tells him to get up and take care of his guild members. As Hanul crouches slightly, Baldy calls his name again. They reach out and shake hands. Baldy, with tears in his eyes, expresses his thanks once more, and promises that he will definitely repay this debt. The system then informs that the trial of contemplation has been overcome, and that rewards will be distributed to all challengers who cleared it. It further states that they can now choose between exiting early or advancing to higher levels. Baldy remarks that he can finally leave this place, while the system adds that unconscious challengers will automatically be processed for an early exit. Baldy asks what Hunter Hanul is going to do. Hanul calmly states that he plans to stay, adding that he still has things left to do. The man reacts with surprise, questioning if he intends to do it alone. He insists that no matter how strong Hanul is, it is dangerous to go alone, and suggests that he should exit the dungeon with them first and regroup. After that, they will do their best to help him, and proposes going together. Hanul responds that he appreciates the offer, but trails off. As they begin to move away, Baldy reacts in confusion. At that moment, a massive presence appears, revealing Odolph, looming behind Hanul, along with Gano standing near him. Hanul states that he already has a reliable companion of his own. Baldy is shocked at the sight of the ogre, and then understands the situation. He admits that Hanul does not need their help, and says they will be leaving. Hanul acknowledges this simply. The system announces that all challengers have made their choices, and that dungeon exits are now being processed. The hunters express their gratitude to Hanul for everything as they prepare to leave. A glowing portal forms ahead, and they move toward it while telling him to be careful. After they depart, Hanul remains alone, and acknowledges that he is finally by himself. The system informs that he has completed the hidden mission Subdue the Source of the Trial, and that a special reward will be given in addition to the standard rewards. Hanul looks ahead calmly, and considers checking the hidden mission reward. Meanwhile, Hyuk begins by questioning what is being suggested. Kang-woo insists that they must recruit the hunter named Kim Hanul. Hyuk agrees that based on what he saw, Hanul's potential is incredible. However, Kang-woo refuses, stating that if it requires handling it personally, the request is denied. He continues that their Pungbek guild is known as one of the top 3 guilds, and they do not make the first move for a rookie with only some potential. They already have more than enough to deal with, and do not have time to waste on a mere B-rank hunter, trailing off as he concludes his point. He then looks down at his phone as it lights up. The screen displays an alert about a red pattern dungeon outbreak, along with a warning. He recognizes it as an emergency disaster alert and wonders if something has gone wrong in a nearby dungeon. Realization strikes him as he identifies it as the Garden of Contemplation. At the scene, people question what happened and ask how many individuals were involved. It is confirmed that the civilian evacuation has been completed safely. Another person asks if there is still no report on the situation inside the dungeon, and it is answered that they are currently confirming the details with the survivors. Hyuk announces that the Poonback Guild has arrived and asks about the situation. They explain that a few moments ago, the Garden of Contemplation shifted to a red pattern. Oshin the Pundaekwod is requested to handle the response in case of an emergency. Hyuk interrupts, asking about the hunters who were currently raiding it. The man confirms that 6 people made it out of the dungeon, but 1 person remained inside, and that the individual most likely entered the depths. A newcomer man questions if they are certain, asking if it is true that a hunter entered the depths alone as several people stand together. The newcomer, or say Aegis Guild leader, S rank Maya Dongpal notes that the Poonback Guild leader is already present and greets him, saying it has been a while. Dongpal asks how he has been, and then brings up what was just said, specifically about the hunter who entered the depths. Kangwoo agrees and suggests that the dungeon may have changed because of that hunter. Suddenly, a surge of energy appears nearby. Kangwoo reacts in surprise. A woman arrives surrounded by that energy, and someone recognizes her as the Sanare Guild leader. She remarks that it has been a while. Dongpal tells her that she arrived just in time, and asks if she also thinks the red pattern was caused by that reason. She responds that it is highly likely. She then states that until now there has not been a single hunter who entered the depths. Kangwoo considers that this is the most plausible explanation, then questions who could have entered the depths. A report arrives stating that information has been secured about the unreturned hunter. According to the survivors, the hunter who remained in the dungeon headed toward the garden's depths as expected, and his name has now been confirmed. The man in the suit reveals that the hunter is Kim Han-ul. Hearing this, Kangwoo recognizes the name as the hunter Soo-hyuk had mentioned, and falls silent. Sanare remarks that things are taking an interesting turn. Dongpal thinks that if this person manages to break through the deepest part and return alive, they will be an unprecedented rookie. Meanwhile, Kim Han-ul exhales and begins, saying that first things should be handled first. He decides to sort out the hidden mission rewards before heading into the deepest part, and proceeds to check them. The system displays that the challenger reward increases all stats by 10, while the contribution reward increases all stats by 5. It also reports that the hidden mission reward has granted the High Priest's dimensional pouch, identified as a grade A pouch. He considers the rewards a pretty good and notes that the pouch will be useful from now on, as it contains a subspace capable of holding up to 100 kg of items. The system then presents an additional reward, a special space development ticket with a quantity of 1. He recognizes it as something that can be used in the monarch's castle, and decides to try using it later on his own. After finishing the reward check, he decides it is enough, and moves on to head toward the deepest part. The system informs that the gate to the deepest part has opened, and asks if everyone is ready. Odolph responds that he is ready. As they begin, Han-ul suddenly questions why he cannot see the gate. At that moment, a pig mallet appears and calls out. The creature continues making sounds while standing nearby, and Han-ul then asks Gono if it seems like they want them to follow it. The pig Maltese suddenly rush forward at high speed, heading straight toward the lake. He is confused and wonders why they are moving in that direction. They leap into the air and dive into the water, creating large splashes as they enter. Han-ul begins to realize that the gate might be inside the lake. He notes that he has never seen a gate underwater before. The pig Maltese continue calling out, urging them to follow. The group moves after them, with Han-ul declaring that they are right behind. He leaps forward and dives into the lake, and the others follow immediately. They descend underwater together, sinking deeper as bubbles rise around them. He reacts in surprise upon entering the water, then looks ahead and notices something glowing below. He sees a bright, swirling light beneath the surface and realizes that there truly is a gate underwater. He understands that if they had not been shown the way, they would have wandered around forever. The pig Maltese continue calling out as they swim around the glowing underwater gate, guiding the group toward it. Han-ul thanks the pig Maltese and tells them to take care, adding that he will see them next time as he swims deeper underwater. He continues descending and notes that he has finally reached the deepest part, recalling that Yoon Soo-hyuk once mentioned it. He remembers being asked if he planned to challenge the deepest part, and he had confirmed it while also asking why Hyuk gave up on challenging it. The response comes back that the place is somewhere his constellation warned him not to go, and if a constellation went out of its way to warn him, it must be extremely dangerous even without seeing it. Han-ul reflects that such a warning from Yoon Soo-hyuk's constellation is significant. As he approaches the glowing underwater gate, he resolves that this time he might truly have to put his life on the line. The system reports that the challenger is entering the deepest part. A bright light fills his vision as he passes through. He opens his eyes slowly, still adjusting, when suddenly Gano appears right in front of his face, startling him. Hanul suddenly screams as he is thrown forward, startled by what appeared in front of him. He exhales in relief and admits that he was startled, realizing it was just Gano. He then wonders if he had briefly passed out while going through the gate, then begins to question if that means this is the place. Hanul looks around and notes that it is a wide plain under a blue sky, completely different from what he expected. The system welcomes him to the Garden of Meditation, the deepest part, and begins explaining the mission. It informs him that the Garden of Meditation is facing an unprecedented crisis. The system explains that in a world overshadowed by death from severe drought, this garden is the last remaining paradise, and countless invaders are continuously gathering to claim it. Therefore, Hanul must protect this place, the final paradise, by altering the structure of the garden and using its abilities to fend off the incoming invasions. Hanul pauses and recognizes that it is the exact same defense format as MBM. The system then reports that the monarch's castle is intervening in the garden. The monarch's castle provides a bird's-eye view of the garden. A glowing map forms, showing the layout of the area. The system explains that the field itself has a similar structure to the monarch's castle. Hearing this, Hanul feels relieved and expresses that it is a good situation. Realizing that the mission is essentially a defense scenario, he becomes confident. The system then instructs that the garden structures must be placed first to prepare for the incoming monster wave. He agrees and decides to begin by checking what forces are available, activating Sage's Eye. The system informs that special structures do not consume any placement count. It then presents the available defenses. The World Tree's grass wall, which is a vine wall connected to the World Tree's roots that releases mana to block approaching monsters. The Ari Tree of Charm and Tears, which scatters pollen that charms monsters and restricts their movements for 5 minutes. And the carnivorous plant Zyra, which devours monsters within its range. After reviewing these, he acknowledges that they are formidable forces, and concludes that he could easily hold off the enemies using just these. He wonders if he can take a few of these back to the monarch's castle, and reaches toward the carnivorous plant, but as soon as he touches it, the system informs that the guardian cannot arbitrarily damage the garden. He clicks his tongue, feeling it is a shame. He then states that he already has a good grasp of his forces, and decides to begin, but suddenly pauses. A strange presence appears nearby, and the system reports the presence of an A rank or higher monster. He looks around, unable to see anything at first, then notices a faint shimmering in the air. Hanul reaches out and grabs the source, realizing he would have completely missed it without his glasses. Holding it in his hand, he questions what it is. The system reveals that it is a beholder sage, a named monster, and that its stats cannot be analyzed. It lists its abilities as snooping level 1, which allows it to observe without being detected, and prevents ordinary camouflage from escaping its gaze, and baby petrification level 1, which restricts the movement of a designated target, but does not affect beings above a certain rank. Hanul observes it closely, and notes that beholders are supposed to be huge, wondering if it has not fully grown yet. Concluding that it is still a named monster, and should be useful, he tells Gano to make sure to catch it, but suddenly the system reports that an unknown constellation demands the beholder sage's freedom. He pauses in confusion, unable to understand what is happening. He realizes that it is a constellation, and reacts with surprise. The system then reveals that the constellation called Gardener of the Mother Goddess is watching him, and yells at him once more to release the beholder. He questions why a constellation is appearing in a place like this, and wonders if they are the ones managing the dungeon. He then considers that the reason Yoon Soo-hyuk's constellation tried to stop him earlier might be related to this. The system reports again that the Gardener of the Mother Goddess yells at him once more, startling him. He admits that he does not know the exact reason, but observes that the constellation seems extremely anxious about losing the small creature in his hand. Thinking he might be able to use this to his advantage, he holds up the beholder sage and asks if it is precious to the constellation. The system responds that they confirm it, and urge him to quickly release the beholder sage. He reacts with interest, and points out that they should not be yelling at him while asking for a favor, reminding them that the beholder is still in his hands. He then warns Gano that if this continues, he will simply get rid of it. The system informs that the Gardener of the Mother Goddess proposes a special mission. As he raises the small beholder in his hand, he reacts with confusion. The system continues, stating that the special mission is to ensure the safe return of the beholder sage until the waves end, and then reports that the reward will be ownership of the beholder sage. He shows surprise at this, and reflects that he had only been trying to tease them a little, yet they are issuing a special mission for this creature, finding it impressive. Hanul then considers that if he plays his cards right, he might gain even more rewards from this. While looking at the beholder closely with interest, he expresses that he can now finally feel their sincerity. The Gardener of the Mother Goddess responds that they understand and will take good care of the little creature until the mission ends, and the system reports that the Gardener lets out a sigh of relief. The system then informs that the Gardener urges him to carry out the mission immediately. Hanul agrees but asks if he can ask a question first, and the Gardener indicates acceptance. He questions why they would go out of their way to find a guardian to protect the garden, adding that even if the monsters are strong, someone with their ability should be able to stop them easily. The system then explains that they originally held off the monsters with the help of the Beholder Sage. The system informs that the Gardener of the Mother Goddess explains that it is not that they cannot handle it, but that they simply do not want to anymore because defense games are boring. Hearing this, he reacts in confusion, questioning what that means, then repeats the idea with disbelief. Basildat, the system adds that they snort and insist it is a fact that defense games are boring. Hanul laughs and counters that it is only because they do not understand the true charm of defense games yet, adding that once they truly get it, those games are incredibly fun. He then declares that this situation is perfect and claims he happens to be quite the expert in this field, proposing that if they provide him with a few extra rewards, he will teach them the tricks of the trade while clearing the mission. The system reports that the gardener scratches their belly and responds that they do not need that. Immediately after, Hanul forcefully grabs the small beholder. He reacts in alarm and calls out to Gano, while Gano responds. Gano quickly moves and throws something upward, forming a glowing blue object in the air. He looks up while still holding the beholder, and the system reports that the Gardener of the Mother Goddess nods vigorously. In the next moment, we see many Zyras has killed multiple monsters. He then remarks with confidence, asking if the constellation watched closely, and explains that if it is done like that, it will be much easier to defend from now on. Then he suggests moving on to the next wave. The system then displays information about the 10th monster wave, listing 3 Cerberus, 10 Golden Bee, 1 Golden Bee Queen, and 5 Iron Golem. Standing with a relaxed posture and the floating beholder beside him, Hanul asks the constellation how they would handle this. The Gardener of the Mother Goddess scratches their belly. He frowns and questions whether they truly have no intention of taking this seriously. Hanul then cautiously addresses the constellation and suggests that maybe it is not that they find defense games annoying, but that they are simply bad at them. The system reports that they become angry, insisting they are at least capable of that much. The system then reports that the Gardener of the Mother Goddess submits a layout plan. Looking at it, he remarks that it seems they are finally motivated to do this properly, and considers what to do next. He then questions the plan, pointing out whether they are seriously going to place 20 Zyras right at the entrance. The system states that they answer yes. He responds by saying they should provoke them a bit, then immediately declares that such a tactic is absolutely hopeless. The Gardener of the Mother Goddess insists that this is more than a simple matter. Hanul responds that the attack power might be sufficient, but Zyra's movements are far too sluggish. Zyras rise from the ground, swaying as he explains that the Ari Tree of Charm must be placed alongside them. He continues that the Ari Tree will immobilize enemies with its charm, covering for Zyra's slow speed. He then adds that this is not all, explaining that the Golden Bee Queen has immunity to charm, so the Ari Tree will not work on her, and that the Iron Golems are immune to magic, meaning the World Tree's grass wall will not stop them. Raising a finger, he considers what should be used to hold those two down so that Zyra can win. The Gardener of the Mother Goddess shows curiosity as he concludes that this is the answer. He reveals that the bullets fired by the peaweeds have a sticky adhesiveness and decides that this will be utilized. The Gardener questions this, pointing out that the adhesiveness is not very strong. He acknowledges that 1 or 2 may not be a big deal, but considers what would happen if hundreds or thousands of them stick. He then tells them to watch closely and see how these pea bullets stop the monsters in their tracks as multiple projectiles strike the enemies. The sticky projectiles strike repeatedly, hitting the enemies as they are overwhelmed by the continuous impacts. Hanul points out that even something seemingly insignificant can achieve this if it is used correctly, while the attacks continue to rain down and bind the enemies in place. He then states that this is the true thrill of defense games as the restrained monsters are struck again. Afterward, he asks if they should move on to the next wave, while the Gardener of the Mother Goddess watches with great interest. The system displays information for the 25th monster wave, listing 1 giant draken, 5 wolves in a pack, and 6 ghouls. Hanul observes that this time there is 1 large monster along with 11 smaller ones of different types. He then asks how the constellation would handle this situation and pauses. After careful consideration, the Gardener of the Mother Goddess presents an opinion, and a layout appears before him. The Gardener places them to herd the monsters into the center, and asks if the plan is to stop their movements with charms and pea bullets before eliminating them all at once. They nod, confirming that this is indeed the plan. Hanul responds with approval and prepares to act. He then states that this time he will set up one side of the passage exactly as suggested, and the Gardener of the Mother Goddess gives a thumbs up as Hanul moves forward and activates his setup. The system repeatedly congratulates that the 25th wave has been successfully defended. Another confirmation appears that the 25th wave has been cleared, and he reacts with quiet satisfaction before asking what the constellation plans to do next. The system then shows that the Gardener of the Mother Goddess carefully draws up a layout plan. He agrees that the plan is excellent and decides to try it as it is. The system confirms that the 57th wave has been successfully defended, followed by another message stating that the 62nd wave has also been cleared. With a nundejer timdand, the 62nd wave has also been cleared. The system reports that a tremendous change has occurred in the gardener's state of mind, and announces that the mission is being readjusted. The system states that they now willingly volunteer to become the guardian, and the mission objective changes from defense to coaching. Hanul smiles and declares that from this point on, he will teach everything he knows about defense games. He then spends the next half-day diligently carrying out the Constellation's coaching mission. He continues guiding the setup. Later, he looks down at a defeated creature and remarks that for something like that, it is now better to roast it whole. He remarks that this is not how the Airy Tree's charm should be used. He then considers that it is still not too shabby as he looks at the progressing setup. The system reports that the 99th wave has been successfully defended. A quiet breath follows as he steadies himself. The group is shown together, and Hanul expresses amazement that their constellation is doing very well now. The system indicates that the gardener of the mother goddess shrugs and smiles with satisfaction. Odolph calls out loudly while looking over the battlefield, noting that even he and Gano have improved immensely. Hanul agrees and begins to say that the constellation could likely finish this alone, but stops midway. The system suddenly informs that the 100th monster wave is arriving soon. Immediately after, a heavy impact shakes the ground. Hanul and Beholder's Sage react sharply, and Gano looks forward with a tense expression. A massive monster crashes down, its large body striking the ground with force as debris scatters around it. Luft to the system reports information about the 100th monster wave, and identifies a behemoth appearing alone. The behemoth roars loudly, baring its fangs as it emerges. The system informs that the gardener of the mother goddess hurriedly prepares to change the layout. Hanul reassures the constellation that everything is alright, acknowledging that they have grown enough and adapted very quickly. The system then indicates that the gardener stops their hands and looks toward him. He observes that the enemy seems difficult to handle with the gardener's power alone, and continues that they will demonstrate how to take it down directly. Immediately after, he launches forward stating that this will be their last lesson, and urges them to watch closely. Behemoth charged forward, but its feet became tangled in the vines, set by Hanul. Hanul immediately noticed the opportunity, and realized this was his chance. While Behemoth's movement was stopped, even if only for a moment, he intended to finish it with a single attack. Behemoth let out a scream. As Hanul prepared to strike, he suddenly noticed something strange, and paused in confusion. Small flying creatures burst out from Behemoth's fur. Hanul saw blood fleas emerging one after another. They had strength, agility, stamina, and blood-sucking level 1. Realizing monsters were coming out from inside Behemoth's fur, he stared at them in shock. The blood fleas immediately swarmed toward him. Hanul tried to avoid them but quickly realized he could not dodge properly in his current condition. Baron Iman, as the creatures closed, he suddenly realized the danger and raised his arm. At that moment, Gano and Odolph jumped into the battle and attacked the blood fleas while calling out to their monarch. Several of the creatures were crushed apart as the attack swept through them. Hanul realized they had saved him just in time. After the rescue, Odolph checked whether Hanul was alright, and addressed him as the King of Kings. Hanul replied that he is fine, and thought the blood fleas were fortunately not that threatening. He quickly moved to deal with them, but the moment he looked closer, his expression stiffened. The swarm rushed forward from every direction. Hanul immediately realized he had been wrong. The blood fleas were far more dangerous than he had first thought. Odolph swung his weapon and warned his monarch that the situation was dangerous. He continued cutting through the blood fleas, but the swarm kept pouring forward. Even after the attack scattered countless blood fleas, Hanul looked ahead with a tense expression and realized the situation was becoming serious. As the battle continued, Hanul realized the blood fleas themselves were not particularly strong. The real problem was their overwhelming numbers. There were far too many for just the 3 of them to handle. While the others continued cutting through the swarm, Hanul searched for another solution. Then he remembered the extra settlement money he still had. 4,000 gold had been deposited for Zen Karuk's soulstone. Another 4,000 gold had been deferred because of the monarch's castle's financial situation. Hanul smiled and thought the timing could not have been better. He decided it was time to summon that person. A new deal with the monarch was activated. Blue energy gathered around Hanul as he used the magic of the named monster and summoned Lizardman High Priest Zen Karuk. Zen Karuk, wrapped in blue energy, suddenly appeared. Looking around in confusion, he wondered where he was. Hanul immediately called out to the High Priest and told him to hurry up and do that thing he knew how to do. Zen Karuk looked confused and asked which thing Hanul was talking about. Hanul immediately shouted for him to use the water spray technique he had used before. The moment Zen Karuk heard that, his eyes widened in realization. Without wasting any time, he began gathering divine energy between his hands. He activates the skill, Tears of the Ancient God. Blue water energy erupted outward and transformed into a massive torrent. Powerful waves surged across the battlefield, sweeping through the countless blood fleas like a raging flood. Hanul watched the scene with satisfaction and praised the result. Compared to the overwhelming power he had witnessed at the lake before, this attack was much weaker. Even so, it was still more than enough to wipe out these blood fleas. Hanal ordered Zen Karuk to finish them off. The high priest, Zen Karuk, unleashed another burst of divine water, sending enormous waves crashing across the battlefield. The flood swallowed everything in its path, washing away the remaining blood fleas and leaving the area completely cleared. Behind the raging currents, Hanul and the others stood unharmed as the last traces of the swarm disappeared. Hanul gave Zen Karuk a thumbs up and praised his performance. The high priest, Zen Karuk, proudly declared that wiping out the blood fleas was an easy task for him. With the swarm gone, Hanul shifted his attention toward the real threat. His gaze locked onto the gigantic behemoth standing in the distance. The enraged behemoth let out a thunderous roar that shook the battlefield. Hanul immediately called out to Odolf and issued a strange order. He told Odolf to throw Gano directly at Behemoth's head. Odolf froze in disbelief and wondered if he had heard correctly. Hanul shouted that there was no time to explain. He told Odolf to trust him and throw Gano without asking questions. Although confused, Odolf apologized to Gano and grabbed him in one hand. Odolf threw Gano toward the air like a living projectile, heading straight toward Behemoth. As Gano flew toward the giant monster, Hanul clenched his fist and said Gano to activate his skill, Accelerate. After activating, a burst of power instantly increased Gano's speed, turning him into a blue streak that raced toward Behemoth's face. Hanul watched Gano race forward while wrapped in blue energy. If his information was correct, Gano's power alone could pierce the Behemoth's tough hide, and acceleration would make that power even greater. As Gano rushed ahead, Hanul ordered Zen Karuk to surround Gano with his water spray. Zen Karuk immediately obeyed. Tears of the ancient god formed a barrier around Gano. Gano charged through the torrent with accelerated speed. The Behemoth roared back while Gano continued accelerating toward it. A bright blast erupted as Gano struck. Wrapped in raging water currents, Gano drove forward with tremendous force. Gano's attack finished the battle. Hanul passed the trial of the garden, and he cleared the garden of deep water. Hanul clenched his fist with a smile and praised Gano for his performance. A golden light suddenly descended from above, and a radiant sword appeared before the group. Hanul looked at it in confusion and wondered what it was. An unknown rank item had been issued as the final reward. He grabbed the glowing sword and was surprised that the sword itself was the reward. The sword was called Emperor's Vestige. An emperor was one who encompassed all things. Therefore, this sword, bearing the emperor's name, could contain all things. Vestige copy became available for use. Holding the sword, Hanul wondered what it meant for it to contain all things. He decided to check the skill. By inserting a summoning orb into the hilt slot, he could copy the highest stat and one chosen skill of the corresponding monster. The corresponding monster could not be summoned while Vestige copy was active. After reading the effect, Hanul realized that the rank and abilities changed depending on which monster orb he inserted. That was why the rank had appeared as a question mark, or say unknown. A message appeared saying that the Mother Goddess's gardener was asking what he wanted as an additional reward. Hearing that, Hanul was surprised that there was still an extra reward available. He recalled saying that, if the constellation threw few more rewards, he will teach while completing the mission. Looking at the glowing sword, he suddenly remembered something. Since it was a reward from a constellation, he decided that was what he wanted. He raised the sword and asked the great constellation to share its authority with him. Authority was a special power obtained by forming a contract with a throne. Anyone who gained that power received overwhelming stats and skills, and their combat ability increased dramatically. Hanul looked serious as he thought that obtaining such a power as a reward would help him greatly. A reply immediately appeared that the request could not be granted. Startled, Hanul questioned why. He wondered if it was because the constellation did not want to form a contract with him. Another reply appeared explaining that this was not the reason. Actually, he was currently in a state where he could not form a contract with them. Confused, Hanul looked toward the message and asked what that meant. Hanul was stunned when another message appeared, stating that he already had a future contract scheduled with another throne. Boo! Unable to believe it, he immediately questioned whether there had been some kind of mistake. In response, the gardener of the Earth Mother merely let out a dry laugh. The system then explained that he had two choices. He could either receive a different reward instead of authority, or form a sponsorship contract. Hearing the second option, Hanul asked about the sponsorship contract. The explanation stated that such a contract would allow him to use a weakened version of their authority. After understanding the offer, Hanul became interested and asked whether he could use that authority without any conditions. The gardener confirmed that he could. Hanul considered the proposal carefully. No matter how valuable the other rewards might be, they could not compare to a throne's authority. As he thought about it, he recalled a historical figure. If his guess was correct, the true identity of the gardener of the Earth Mother was the first human emperor loved by the Earth Mother Ishtar, the legendary Emperor Sargon. Since Sargon was the only gardener ever beloved by the Earth Mother, Hanul concluded that accepting the sponsorship contract was probably the safest and most valuable choice available to him. Realizing that Sargon's status as a throne had to be incredibly high, Hanul quickly reached a decision. While he was still considering his options, a message informed him that the gardener of the Earth Mother was waiting for his answer. Hanul finally nodded and declared that he had made up his mind. Instead of taking another reward, he chose to form a sponsorship contract with the Lord Throne. The gardener of the Earth Mother, who is now revealed as a male, named as Sargon, immediately praised his choice, calling it an excellent decision. A tremendous surge of power erupted spread throughout the space as the contract was established. Golden and blue energies intertwined around Hanul, while the overwhelming presence of the throne descended upon him. Moments later, a notification confirmed that the sponsorship contract had been successfully formed. The rewards arrived at once. Through the power of authority, Hanul gained a new ability. He obtained strong resistance to poison, greatly reducing the chances of being poisoned. Another blessing followed, granting him resistance to fear. No matter how terrifying the situation became, he would be able to maintain his reason and composure. The authority's power continued to strengthen him, increasing all of his stats by 10 points. As the notifications piled up, Hanul could barely hide his excitement. The effects were far beyond what he had expected. A grin spread across his face as he realized something incredible. If this was merely the weakened authority granted through a sponsorship contract, then the true power possessed by the throne itself had to be unimaginably terrifying. Hanul looked at the notifications with satisfaction and admitted that choosing authority had definitely been the right decision. A new message then appeared, confirming that the sponsorship contract had been successfully completed. Immediately afterward, the gardener of the Earth Mother fulfilled his promise and transferred ownership of the Beholder Sage to Hanul. Hanul smiled after seeing this. The system explained that any monster under Hanul's ownership could now access information connected to the Lord's castle. This meant the Beholder Sage would be able to gather valuable knowledge directly from the throne's network. Pleased with the reward, Hanul promised that he would take good care of his new companion. At that moment, another notification appeared. The Garden of the Abyss had been perfectly cleared. A hidden achievement condition was also completed, unlocking additional information related to the skill called Audience with the Lord. The system listed all the requirements Hanul had already fulfilled: surviving a monster wave, playing for more than 50 hours, speaking with a throne, and receiving acknowledgement from a throne. With those conditions complete, the final requirement was finally revealed. To unlock the skill completely, Hanul would need to craft an S-rank or higher item using monster materials. Before he could think further about it, a violent red light suddenly engulfed him. Back at the gate, alarms rang as hunters detected an abnormal reaction from the dungeon. The energy fluctuations rapidly intensified, causing everyone to panic. Watching the disturbance spread, the hunters immediately realized something was wrong. They stared at the gate in shock and wondered whether the dungeon was about to go on a destructive rampage. The sudden alarm threw the entire area into chaos. Believing the dungeon was about to run wild, Dongpal immediately ordered every combat unit to prepare for battle. They warned everyone that if the dungeon erupted, countless monsters could pour out at any moment. The hunters quickly organized themselves. One veteran stepped forward and volunteered to take the vanguard while ordering the others to focus on support and evacuation. Nearby, Kangwoo called for Hyuk and Sua to get ready as well. He was just about to lead everyone forward when something unexpected caught his attention. Before anyone could react, a figure suddenly emerged from the raging red portal. The hunters froze in disbelief. At first they assumed it was a monster, but the moment the figure stepped into the light, they realized it was actually a person. A survivor had come out alive. Shock immediately spread through the crowd as they recognized him. It was Hunter Kim Hanul. The man who had entered the Garden of the Abyss alone had returned safely. The realization left everyone speechless. If Hanul was standing there alive, then it could only mean one thing. He had cleared the Garden of the Abyss by himself. As the crowd struggled to process the impossible achievement, someone suddenly pointed toward the gate. The dungeon itself was beginning to disappear. The collapsing portal confirmed that the raid had truly been completed. The hunters stared at the fading gate in disbelief, unable to understand how a single hunter had managed to conquer a dungeon that should have required an entire force.
Meanwhile, Hanul looked around in confusion.
He had expected a few representatives from the association to greet him after clearing the dungeon. Instead, all three major guild masters were gathered outside waiting. Seeing such influential figures standing there personally left even Hanul wondering what exactly had happened while he was inside the dungeon. A man from the Hunter Union Management Bureau quickly approached Hanul and politely introduced himself as Kim Jung-soo. After introducing himself, Jung-soo sincerely thanked Hanul for successfully clearing the dungeon. Hanul accepted the gratitude before asking the question that had been bothering him. He wanted to know why all three guild masters were present as well. Jung-soo explained that the Garden of the Abyss had suddenly shifted into a red pattern state, causing the association to suspect a possible dungeon rampage. Because of that emergency, support had been requested from every major guild. Hearing the explanation, Hanul finally understood why so many people had gathered outside the dungeon entrance. Jung-soo confirmed that everyone had fully expected a dungeon break and had issued emergency summons. However, even he admitted that nobody expected all three major guild masters to personally appear. Hanul quietly considered the situation. For a potential dungeon rampage, sending guild members alone should have been more than enough. The fact that every guild master had arrived in person felt unusual. As he looked at the three powerful figures standing together, a strange thought crossed his mind. Could they have come here because of him? He immediately dismissed the idea. There was no way such influential people would personally travel all this way just to see a single hunter. While thinking, Hanul glanced at the glowing crystal in his hand and silently fell into thought, sensing that there was still something he did not fully understand about the situation, then realized this might actually be useful. Putting on a calm smile, he politely remarked that it was an honor to meet all three guild masters at once. Before anyone could respond, Dongpal noticed the glowing crystal and immediately froze. He recognized it instantly. It was a blood flow stone. The moment Hanul revealed revealed the crystal, a flashback crossed his mind. 10 minutes earlier, while examining the beast's remains, he had wondered how he was supposed to craft an S-rank item from monster materials. At that moment, Odolph had respectfully approached him and offered a shining crystal he had found inside the monster's corpse. This crystal is actually a bloodflow stone. It was an extremely rare treasure that contained far more mana than an ordinary mana stone. Its true value, however, came from its crafting potential. In the hands of a skilled craftsman, a bloodflow stone could be used as a core material to create an S-rank weapon or artifact. Realizing the worth of the item, Hanul began considering how he could make use of it in the future. Back at the present, as the guildmaster stared at the glowing stone with obvious shock, he started to understand that the crystal might be far more valuable than he had originally thought. Hanul smirked as he realized he had finally found a craftsman worthy of handling the bloodflow stone. He looked at the 3 guildmasters standing before him and began evaluating them one by one. Holding the glowing bloodflow stone in his hand, he decided it was time to find out which of them could solve his little problem. And with this, we've come to the end of today's episode. If you stayed till the last second, drop your thoughts about this story, and in the comments, guess what our MC will do next. A quick like helps more than you think, and subscribing makes sure you never miss what comes next. Thank you for watching, and check out this video right here.